Chapter 579. After the battle with Long Qi and the 5 combat emperors in the 9 Azura tombs, Lin Chen's strength had a breakthrough in all aspects. With his current cultivation level, the 6 transformations and the ultimate moment of the 4 great clones each had the strength between the late 4th and early 5th stage. Coupled with the strength of his main body, anyone below the late 5th stage would be suppressed by him. As for the everlasting Azure Dragon Emperor, he had officially become a 7th-rank mid-grade vicious beast. His pure strength was comparable to an early 4th-rank vicious beast, and his full combat strength was comparable to an early 5th-rank combat emperor. Even if he couldn't win, there wasn't much of a difference. "Big brother, not good!" As Bai Juanhao exclaimed in shock, a raging fire qilin suddenly charged over on a wave of fire. Its 30,000-meter-long body was like a blazing sun as it charged towards Bai Juanhao. It was a peak early 7th stage raging flame qilin. In addition, there were 3 3rd-stage combat emperors surrounding the Dragon Emperor. If the Dragon Emperor were to fight this formation alone, it would be completely possible because its defense and speed were unparalleled. But if it had to protect Bai Juanhao at the same time, it would be a completely different concept. The Dragon Emperor didn't fight immediately. Instead, he released the Azure Dragon Domain to delay the 3 of them and the raging flame qilin. Then, he twisted his dragon body, flapped his purple phoenix wings, and used the frightening dragon roam to retreat. Bai Juanhao felt aggrieved. He wanted to attack but couldn't. With his strength, other than stabilizing himself on the Dragon Emperor's body, he had no other choice. This battle wasn't something he could interfere with. Just running away won't change the result. Clone, go! With a thought, Lin Chen's clone wielded the white jade green sword, white frost green rainbow, to support the Dragon Emperor. The situation of the battle instantly changed. The blazing green rainbow sword art was executed one after another. Lin Chen's clone was unstoppable. Just by himself, he was able to defeat 3 mid-3rd level combat emperors. The battle was completely one-sided. Lin Chen's main body retreated in a flash. He squinted his eyes and suddenly swept his spear. The spear light was like a crescent moon, slashing towards a void 30,000 li away. Bang! Bang! The sound of battle qi colliding reverberated in the sky. Crimson Queen, who was hiding in the dark, was rather surprised. What an interesting little guy. His attainments in spiritual power are also very high, but he hasn't reached the reaching heaven state yet. But how did he find out where my real body is in the illusion? The Crimson Queen's figure flickered as she floated to a higher position, looking down at Lin Chen. From the previous wave of attacks, this person's strength was not to be underestimated. His 4 doppelgangers, the Dragon Emperor, and his own battle prowess were all monstrous. If he were to use his true body to face the enemy head-on, he would have to pay a heavy price even if he was in the Crimson Illusory Realm. Moreover, the Crimson Queen's goal wasn't to kill Lin Chen right away. She wanted him to become her partner and the cornerstone of her cultivation. Such a powerful doppelganger technique must have come at a high price. Since that's the case, I, the Crimson Empress, will go all out to meet you. The Crimson Queen flew into the sky and stepped on the blood moon. Her jade-like hands moved rapidly as she formed a seal. As for Lin Chen, his opponent's spiritual power was at the reaching heaven state. Her illusory realm wasn't something he could see through. Even if he could find the Crimson Queen's position in the illusory realm with the help of the attribute light ball, in the illusory realm, the Crimson Queen's speed was faster than Lin Chen's real body. Unless he used the Azure Dragon possession to activate the purple phoenix wings, he could only try. However, Lin Chen didn't want to compete with her in terms of speed, because his real body wouldn't be her match even if he caught up with her. Since his opponent wanted to exhaust him to death, then he would go along with her plan. Kill everything in sight. Lin Chen's killing intent was awe-inspiring. He actually controlled all his doppelgangers to attack the 3 third-level combat emperors and the raging flame Qilin. Not good. This brat wants to attack my people? The Crimson Queen, who was using some kind of secret technique, suddenly had a change in her expression. She waved her jade-like hand lightly, and her spiritual power swept out like a hurricane. Countless mirages and illusions rushed into Lin Chen's mind. The entire Crimson City was transformed into a desert in Lin Chen's vision. The scene of the battle between the raging flame Qilin and the 3 combat emperors had completely disappeared. However, Lin Chen was like a boorish man as he plunged headfirst into the bottom of the empty desert. Letting the wind and sand wreak havoc, Lin Chen and his doppelgangers didn't care about anything else. They used the 8 Desolation Finger, the 58th style of fighting emperor. The attacks of his real body and his doppelgangers were not careless at all. Bang! The illusory realm shattered, and the desert turned back into the crimson illusory realm. Lin Chen's numerous attacks landed on the 3 combat emperors. 2 of them were seriously injured, and a large number of attribute light balls rolled down from them. The Rune of Penetration's special property allowed 20% of the attack's power to penetrate the body of the 3rd combat emperor. The combat emperor, whose defensive artifact was destroyed by the White Frost and Green Rainbow sword, died on the spot. My illusory realm didn't trap him? How is this possible? If I used the illusory realm in the Crimson City, even a 6th-level combat emperor or a heavenly completion realm expert might not be able to break through the crimson illusory realm so quickly. The Crimson Empress was completely shocked. It was because she had absolute confidence in protecting her subordinates in the crimson illusory realm that she allowed the 3 combat emperors and the raging flame Qilin to recklessly come into contact with Lin Chen. They wanted to use this opportunity to exhaust Lin Chen's strength. However, they didn't expect that Lin Chen wasn't affected by the illusory realm at all. How did he do it? In the Crimson City, some of the combat emperors who had entered the city to recuperate were dumbfounded as they looked at the few silhouettes flashing back and forth in the air. Oh my god, a late 2nd-level combat emperor, killing a mid-3rd-level combat emperor? Who is this kid? How can he be so terrifying? If such a heaven-defying expert appeared in the 2nd and 3rd main cities, it's impossible that we didn't receive the news. Wait a minute. The 10,000-year green dragon emperor with the purple phoenix wings. I remember now. It's Lin Chen from the 1st main city. 10 months ago, nearly 30% of the combat emperors on the combat emperor leaderboard in city number 1 were pissed off by him. Then, he killed Yun Mingqing in city number 1 in front of Long Qi's clone in city number 2. When the 13 combat emperors in the Crimson City recognized Lin Chen's identity, they exclaimed in surprise. Swoosh! Swoosh! Rumble! The 10,000-year black light blade fell on the raging flame Qilin's body and tore its body apart. Without the protection of the 3 combat emperors, the raging flame Qilin was no match for the Dragon Emperor. At this moment, a divine light flashed across the raging flame Qilin's neck like a shooting star. Qi! A pillar of fire spurted out. That was the blood of the raging flame Qilin. The strong fire energy in its body made its blood as hot as lava. Its head was chopped off by Lin Chen and then caught by him. Lin Chen, who was holding the head of the raging flame Qilin, issued an order. Green Dragon Emperor, swallow it! The Dragon Emperor opened his mouth and continuously devoured the raging flame Qilin's flesh and blood, as well as the large amount of qi and blood attribute light balls rolling off its body. With his current cultivation, swallowing the raging flame Qilin's beast core wouldn't be of much use. However, Lin Chen could make use of the raging flame Qilin's beast core to create a killer move. Chapter 580. Lin Chen's main body carried the Qilin's head and quietly channeled a vast amount of fire calamity battle qi into it. A terrifying amount of energy was brewing inside the Qilin's head. Host consumed 300 points of rune energy, 200 points of rune energy, 280 points. Continuously activating level 5 slow rune. The special effect of the slow rune was continuously channeled into the Qilin's head, brewing a terrifying wave of destruction. However, other than Lin Chen, no one else could feel this energy because the flow of energy inside the Qilin's head had slowed down to a crawl. The sword light was like lightning, the saber light was like a snowflake, and the arrow light flew back and forth. The last 2 third-level combat emperors were killed by Lin Chen's clones. They didn't even have the chance to self-destruct. Received 18,000 points of blood chi, 14,000 points of blood chi, 21,000 points of blood chi, 9,000 points of rune energy, 20,000 points of battle chi essence, 200 points of fire energy, 240 points of wind energy. As the light balls were collected by the Dragon Emperor, Lin Chen's pure strength skyrocketed. The 3 third-level combat emperors had provided Lin Chen with a high amount of attribute points. He was getting closer and closer to breaking through to the 2nd-level combat emperor. The light balls dropped by the Raging Flame Qilin were of high quality, and there were many of them. System: I want to strengthen the Divine Force talent to 50%. Consumed 150,000 points. Blue rank talent. Divine Force has been strengthened to 50%. It can increase the host's pure strength by 50%. It is not suitable for body refinement bottleneck. It can only increase the host's strength by 10 million points. After killing the Raging Flame Qilin, Lin Chen's pure strength had risen to 1.35 million. With the 50% boost from the Divine Force, his pure strength had reached 1.99 million points. Along with the Dragon Emperor and his clones, the time limit was up. His main body and his clones were dispelled at the same time. When the experts of Scarlet City saw his figure, they couldn't help but retreat. This young man was too cruel. He killed combat emperors as if he was killing a chicken. He didn't even frown. Very good, as expected of the young man, I fancy. You are indeed a unique existence in the 9 continents. The more you act like this, the more I want you. The Crimson Empress voice was filled with resentment as it resounded throughout the entire city. Lin Chen's attack after breaking through the illusion realm had caused her to lose 4 third-level combat emperors as her right-hand men. Lin Chen carried the huge Qilin head with one hand and said with a carefree smile, "I've always been praised as the most handsome and most unexpected student. You'll suffer if you look down on me, Scarlet Queen. If you remove the illusion now, we can still talk. Of course, it won't be in the future. Talk. You've killed 3 of my battle emperors and the Raging Flame Qilin that I've been raising for 10,000 years. There was a hint of killing intent in the Crimson Queen's charming voice. Lin Chen shook his head and laughed. He had spouted some nonsense. Even $1,000,000 firmament dollars could not compare to this loss. If you stay in my hands later, I'll make you beg for death. If I don't suck your cultivation dry, I'm not the Crimson Empress." Hearing this, many experts in the city shuddered. Lin Chen's mouth twitched violently. F***K, who can withstand this? It was said that 30 years old was like a wolf, 40 was like a tiger. This Crimson Empress had lived for at least 10,000 years. The Dragon Emperor protected by Juanhao and retreated to the side. Just as Lin Chen was about to raise his head, the stars in the entire city changed. The crimson illusion began to change. Boom! The Crimson City had become a whole new world. The buildings around it became extremely exquisite and full of emotions. Everywhere was emitting an aura that stimulated hormones. Countless beauties walked out of the exquisite buildings slowly. There were all kinds of beauties walking out of the buildings. Everything that could be imagined was here. There were countless of them. They were emitting endless charm. Even the battle emperors could not resist their temptation and influence. The entire Crimson City seemed to have been reduced to a charming paradise. Lin Chen quickly activated the Grand Beginning Holy Bible. The spiritual power in his body seemed to form countless vortexes. The crimson illusion that was trying to invade Lin Chen's spiritual sea was completely removed by the grand beginning Holy Bible. Even Bai Juanhao could not help but reveal an expression of being mesmerized. He had completely fallen for it. With his cultivation, it was difficult for him to resist this level of charm. Juanhao, wake up! Lin Chen used his spiritual power to wake Bai Juanhao up. He scratched his head awkwardly and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, big brother. Activate your green dragon bloodline and enter the most violent state. Try your best to stay rational." Lin Chen did not have time to explain to him. He activated his spiritual power and shouted. Without saying a word, Bai Juanhao activated the green dragon bloodline in his body and turned into a terrifying humanoid green dragon. His eyes glowed green and his ferocious aura swept across the entire street. Although the killing intent in Bai Juanhao's eyes was intense, he still managed to stay rational for a short period of time. Both of them managed to block it? One of them used the violent nature of the green dragon bloodline to forcefully maintain his rationality. But that little guy's spiritual power is very advanced. The Crimson Empress, who was hiding in the sky, was shocked. Her coquettish eyes revealed a greedy look. This kid must have a high-level spirit cultivation secret manual on him. If she could get it, she was afraid that her control of illusions would be improved by a few levels. Even some low-level battle emperors were affected. Their eyes were blurred as they walked toward the charming Crimson Palace. Although the situation was dangerous, Lin Chen's expression occasionally became serious. However, the smile on his face remained calm and composed from beginning to end. At this moment, more than a dozen beautiful figures walked out of the palace. They were of different shapes and sizes, and each of them had their own merits. What an advanced illusion technique! Some of these beauties are real and some are fake. To deal with Yuan venerables, they used illusions. To deal with battle emperors, they used specially trained maids to use special seduction techniques to seduce battle emperors. In the end, the Crimson Empress would be the one to benefit. Lin Chen exclaimed. When he looked at the door plate of the Crimson Palace, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. The words on the door plate read, "Battle in the Imperial City. The winner is king. Beautiful women and treasured sabers." Lin Chen's mouth twitched. Once again, he saw colorful lights shooting up into the sky. This was the sign of a high-grade treasure being born. A top-notch 7th-level weapon. There's more than one. Haha, we're rich. Some of the battle emperors were not lustful, but they were attracted by the illusion of a high-grade weapon being born. There were even 3 battle emperors whose eyes became especially wild as they aimed at Lin Chen. At this moment, Lin Chen had become a person who was full of treasures and had high-grade elixir pills in his possession. These battle emperors had relaxed when the illusion of a high-grade weapon was born. When the illusion invaded their consciousness, they didn't know that they were in an illusion. They saw the appearance of a top-notch 7th-level weapon and a top-notch 7th-level elixir pill on Lin Chen's body. Without saying a word, more than 10 half-emperors and 3 battle emperors immediately drew their sabers and slashed at Lin Chen. Lin Chen couldn't help but curse, F***ck. You want to slash me just because you're my brother? I'm not trash. 3 clones appeared in a flash, and then they formed seals with their hands, causing 6 spiritual Azura phantoms to condense and appear in midair. Suddenly, 6 spiritual Azura phantoms burst out with 6 spiritual Azura phantoms that could shatter the universe, and they were like all-powerful gales that smashed towards the group of experts that were deep in the illusion. Many beauties formed by the illusion let out a scream and were shattered into nothingness by the spiritual attacks. At this moment, 10 graceful figures started to condense in the sky above Lin Chen's head. The aura of each of them was actually comparable to that of a late-stage 4th-level battle emperor. Chapter 581. She actually used the power of illusion to create 10 late 4th-level combat emperors. Should I try the rune of deceleration? But in the illusion, she can use the power of illusion at will. Even if I use the rune of deceleration to seal her, she can still use the power of illusion to block me. Just as Lin Chen was thinking, the Scarlet Queen's chuckle was heard. Hee, since the illusion can't trap you, I would like to see how much combat strength you have. The sound of her laughter was accompanied by a vibration of mental strength, which made Lin Chen feel dizzy. His doppelganger was no exception. Even though he wouldn't be trapped in the illusion, the combat strength of his doppelganger and his doppelganger would still be reduced when they were trapped in the illusion. Suddenly, Lin Chen's eyes lit up. When he took a closer look, he saw that the 10 beauties in the illusion were all condensed from battle chi essence and a large amount of mental strength attribute light balls. Everyone, it seems that the Scarlet Queen wants us to become the nourishment of her illusion. How about we join forces to break the illusion? A middle-aged man in a green robe said seriously. He carried a sword on his back and was a late 3rd-level combat emperor. He was a pure sword emperor. He was also one of the few experts who hadn't been trapped in the illusion. I won't get involved. She is the #1 expert on the War Emperor list. It won't be good to offend her. 2 old men in black robes retreated to the side. Then, another 2 mid-3rd-level combat emperors expressed their intention to break the illusion together. Once they were trapped in the extremely dangerous ecstasy cave, their cultivation would become the nourishment of the illusion, and they would become the Scarlet Queen's stepping stone. They were all proud people who wouldn't bow their heads easily. At present, there were still 5 combat emperors who were hesitating. After all, they were just passing by the Scarlet City for a short rest. Who would have thought that they would be involved in this battle? In the past, the Scarlet Queen wouldn't activate the illusion unless it was a matter of life and death. But who would have thought that she would encounter an unprecedented existence like Lin Chen? They didn't hesitate to use their trump card. But they didn't dare to offend the #1 expert on the War Emperor list. At the same time, they couldn't afford to offend Lin Chen. Lin Chen looked appreciatively at the 3 people who dared to resist, but before he could say anything, a voice suddenly rang out. At this time, the 10 graceful women in the sky gathered together and lifted their long skirts, revealing their fair and tender legs. They formed a half-moon formation and waved their 20 shining legs, sending a bliss invitation to Lin Chen and the others. Lin Chen sucked in a breath of cold air. Holy shit! Who could withstand this? What kind of formation is this? One of the 10 beauties, a purple beauty, smiled charmingly. Little brother, this is the beauty array. Lin Chen raised an eyebrow. How beautiful! The 10 beauties lifted their clothes and skirts, revealing their faintly discernible snow-white skin. This caused Lin Mao to wipe the blood from his nose. He turned his head and spoke to the 3 battle emperors with a serious expression. The 3 of you, this beauty array is too dangerous. You guys should take a rest. I'm still young, so let me do it. As the saying goes, if I don't enter hell, who will? This time, I'll lead the charge. With that said, Lin Chen lifted the Qilin's head and flew up with his 4 clones. The Battle Emperors and the Crimson Queen couldn't help but twitch their mouths when they saw him carrying the raging flame Qilin's head. F***CK. Are you serious? You're really leading the charge. Suddenly, 3 yellow-robed Battle Emperors among the 5 Battle Emperors who hadn't spoken yet yelled with righteousness. Little friend, don't worry. We'll save you. The 3 Battle Emperors roared and charged forward with weapons in their hands. No. I'm indomitable, handsome, tough, and durable. How can I let you save me? Today, I'll let the beauty array taste the power of the men of the spiritual state. Don't fight with me, or I'll fight with you. The last sentence was from Lin Chen's heart. Created by the illusions, these beauties were full of elemental light balls that contained the essence of spirit energy and battle aura. If he could kill all of them, wouldn't his spiritual power soar to a whole new level? Lin Chen turned around and scolded the emperors behind him. As soon as he finished speaking, he sucked in a breath of cold air. The 3 battle emperors even took off their pants. F***CK. You said you would save me? Why the F***CK would you save me with your pants off? The yellow-robed battle emperor said with a straight face, Little friend, the weather is too hot. If we don't take off our pants, we'll get heatstroke. Lin Chen said, Bullsh**T. I was just having hot pot 2 days ago. Ha ha, come on, let's have fun. We have plenty of time. The 10 beauties of the beauty array danced gracefully. A series of swaying plump and snow-white breasts came into view. The 3 battle emperors were mesmerized, and even the battle emperors behind Lin Chen began to waver. This beauty array could mesmerize several 5th-level battle emperors at the same time, let alone 2nd and 3rd-level battle emperors. Lin Chen was also trapped in the illusions. When he saw more and more scenes that were not suitable for children, he couldn't easily break through this illusions. However, the corners of his mouth began to curl up. The eyes of his doppelganger and his true body were empty, and they were about to throw themselves into the arms of the beauties in the beauty array. He took the bait. That little guy can't resist the enchantment of the Crimson Moon beauty array. Humph! This time, I'll suck his cultivation dry. The Crimson Queen's figure flickered as she charged towards Lin Chen. Suddenly, a hair-raising sense of danger arose in the Crimson Queen's heart. This was the clearest sixth sense, and she felt a fatal danger. The Crimson Queen subconsciously retreated, not caring about her beauty array at all. Ultimate return to origin, penetrating charging rune, and ultimate moment coolness. I want to beat someone up. I'll present my invincible 8 desolate finger to all the beauties here. Lin Chen's wild laughter resounded through the sky. 8-colored chaotic energy surged out from Lin Chen's true body and all of his doppelganger and gathered on the fingertips of his arms. Lin Chen kicked away the raging flame Qilin head that had been brewing for a long time and turned into a meteor that streaked across the sky. At the same time, his doppelganger and true body put away their weapons and pointed out a finger. Boom! Boom! 5 8-colored energy fingers pierced through the sky with a monstrous power. Cross the sky. The 5 8-colored energy fingers pushed the raging flame Qilin's head that was burning with fire tribulation flames, and the 10 illusionary beauties in the beauty array were terrified. When they hurriedly urged their movement techniques to retreat and escape, the Qilin's head suddenly exploded. Bang! The torrential, raging, and scorching energy rolled out an endless amount of destructive heat waves. Then, the 8-colored desolate energy exploded, spreading out like an 8-colored shockwave. The energy storm lasted for nearly 100,000 zhang, shocking all the combat emperors. The power of this attack was so powerful that even a late-stage 5th-stage warrior would lose half his life if he took it head-on. Lin Chen's 4 doppelgangers seemed to have a tacit understanding as they stood in front of Lin Chen's main body. While the doppelgangers were blocking the attack, Lin Chen instantly unfurled his purple phoenix wings and transformed into a hazy moonlight shadow as he frantically retreated. Boom! 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 The heat waves that engulfed the heavens and the earth and the astonishing destructive energy waves rolled over again and again. The heat waves were nearly 30,000 feet high, and almost half of the sky above Crimson City was swallowed into a vacuum zone. Chapter 582. The Crimson Queen spat out several mouthfuls of blood. The beauty formation was a major killing move of her crimson illusion, which was formed by her spiritual origin and battle chi. If she lost any of her illusionary doppelgangers, a part of the damage would be reflected back to her real body. Her coquettish face was filled with disbelief and lingering fear. If she had not chosen to retreat at that time, she would have lost half her life by now. What's going on? Wasn't that kid under the illusion? How could he still launch such a terrifying attack? The Crimson Queen was very sure that Lin Chen was completely under the illusion at that time. Otherwise, she would not have acted so easily. But what she did not expect was that Lin Chen could still aim at her and the beauty formation in the illusion and launch such a terrifying attack. If it were any other time, she would be the master of the illusion. As long as she could sense such a terrifying attack in advance, she could dispel the beauty formation in a breath. She could avoid this loss. But at that time, she had already sensed the fatal danger and could not care about her beauty formation. I've been tricked by this kid. Oh no. The Crimson Queen's expression became gloomier. The price of taking this young man away was too high. When the energy storm dissipated, 4 of Lin Chen's clones were caught in the aftermath of the energy storm. Only one survived. Lin Chen's mood was surging. He immediately activated the illusion rune. 3 more clones appeared again and rushed into the sky. At this time, the sky was filled with attribute light balls floating in the air. Most of them were battle aura essence and spiritual power attribute light balls. Received 110 spiritual power, 105 spiritual power, 150 spiritual power, 25,800 battle aura essence, 180 spiritual power, 8,000 rune energy. Many attribute light balls were collected by Lin Chen's clones. In Lin Chen's spiritual sea, the mental bridge grew and extended crazily. Lin Chen's attack was not a coincidence. It was a killing move that he had been preparing for a long time. With the attribute pickup system, as long as there were attribute light balls around him, he would never be lost in the illusion, even if he was under a powerful illusion. And inside the Raging Flame Qilin's head was its dire beast core. The Raging Flame Qilin was a vicious beast with extremely berserk fire energy. Its violent nature made it more troublesome to deal with compared to other vicious beast cores of the same level. As a result, high-tier alchemy grandmasters would often choose vicious beast cores of other fire attributes when refining pills. However, Lin Chen had made full use of its troublesome berserk characteristic. He had been using the slowing rune to slow down the energy flow inside the Qilin head to the speed of a turtle. When the slowing rune froze the inside of the Qilin head, Lin Chen kept injecting his own fire calamity battle chi into it. The violent energy contained in the fierce beast core was already like a barrel of explosives, not to mention Lin Chen's fire calamity battle chi. Under normal circumstances, once these two energies came into contact, there would definitely be a huge explosion. But Lin Chen's slowing rune was able to temporarily calm these two energies and completely fuse them into the Kirin head. If it weren't for the fact that they had absolute confidence in their own slowing rune, no one would dare to do such a crazy thing. This was equivalent to carrying a super bomb that could injure or even cripple a 5th-level combat emperor. It was like playing with one's life. It was like playing with one's heart. Therefore, from the moment Lin Chen obtained the Raging Flame Qilin head, he had been injecting a huge amount of fire calamity battle chi into it, all for this earth-shattering attack. 5 desolate fingers and a vicious beast core that had been injected with fire calamity battle chi to the extreme. The power of the final explosion was only inferior to Lin Chen's 9 calamity star. In the end, Lin Chen had obtained 9,840 points of intermediate spiritual energy from the attribute light balls dropped by the fallen beauties in the beauty array. His mental bridge had grown to 80% of its original size. With another 20% growth, Lin Chen's spiritual energy would truly reach the connecting heaven realm. His spiritual energy would have the power to resist the tribulation of heaven and earth. Lin Chen removed the 6-fold transformation. As soon as he felt weak, his battle chi exploded and formed the second 9-colored battle chi fate wheel. Early 2nd-level combat Emperor realm. After destroying the Crimson Illusion, Beauty Array, Lin Chen had finally broken through that boundary. However, this was not Lin Chen's final goal. Even though he was at the early stage of the 2nd realm and had the 6th realm transformation, it was still difficult for him to defeat the Scarlet Queen, who was on her home turf. Lin Chen's goal was to break through her Scarlet Illusion. Doppelgangers. Defend with all your might. At this moment, Lin Chen's 4 doppelgangers were protecting him. After the breakthrough, the doppelgangers in the sixfold transformation had barely stepped into the early 3rd-level combat Emperor realm. The 4 doppelgangers had the strength of an early 5th-level combat Emperor. The 4 doppelgangers did not act rashly. Before the Crimson Queen had time to doubt, she saw something in Lin Chen's hand. Her beautiful face suddenly changed. A 7-colored ball of energy was flowing in the center of his palm. Lin Chen put it between his eyebrows. Boom! Terrifying spiritual energy waves swept across the entire crimson illusion. Is this the 7-colored holy source? This brat actually wants to break through to the reaching heaven state in front of me at this critical juncture? The Crimson Queen was shocked and angry. Her spiritual energy had reached the reaching heaven state, so it was impossible for her not to know what Lin Chen wanted to do. If he wanted to break through to the spiritual energy level in front of her, wouldn't that mean he didn't take her seriously? I'd like to see how arrogant you are. This time, I only want him alive, not whole. The Crimson Queen was furious that the beauty array couldn't take down Lin Chen. With a wave of her sleeves, more than a dozen pink energy palms pressed down. Each of them had the power to destroy mountains, rivers, and stars. They were comparable to the full strength of an early 5th-level combat emperor. She no longer planned to capture Lin Chen in one piece. This goal was no longer realistic. She only wanted him alive. Even if he was disabled, as long as she could take down Lin Chen, his talent would become the cornerstone of her cultivation. Attack! All of Lin Chen's clones seemed to have a telepathic connection. They activated Ultimate Restoration and continued to use Ultimate Moment. They drew their bows and swords, brandished their spears and swords, and used the penetration and charge runes one after another. In the midst of flying sand and rolling pebbles, the entire city seemed to have lost its light, and the sky darkened. The two sides instantly exchanged blows. The Dragon Emperor flew to Lin Chen's side with Bai Juanhao and activated Black Azure Dragon Domain to protect him. This was to prevent the aftermath of the battle from affecting his cultivation. Boom! Boom! The sky shook violently as if it was about to collapse. This terrifying aura shocked the Crimson Queen's remaining servants, the combat emperors, and other experts who had entered Crimson City to rest, and they all retreated to the side. Logically speaking, even if Lin Chen's 4 clones had the strength of an early 5th-level combat emperor, it would be difficult for them to stop the Crimson Queen, who was on her home ground. However, all of his clones were not afraid of death. As long as they had a chance to hurt the Crimson Queen, they would trade their lives for hers. The Crimson Queen did not dare to give Lin Chen this chance. The former had personally experienced his penetration rune, not to mention that she was still injured from the backlash of the beauty array. Chapter 583. While his doppelgangers were fighting the Crimson Queen, Lin Chen was madly circulating the Grand Beginning Bible. Although the 7-colored sacred source's pure spiritual energy was extremely vast, it didn't have any burden to absorb. Once the Grand Beginning Bible's mysteries were activated, it split into multiple spiritual energies to refine and absorb at the same time. The absorption speed was countless times faster than other experts of the same level. Lin Chen's spiritual bridge continued to climb and extend. Finally, it rushed to 90% of the way, forming an almost complete spiritual bridge. Finally, after the 4 doppelgangers had been defending for nearly 15 minutes, and after 3 of them had fallen, Lin Chen's spiritual energy suddenly rushed to a boundary point. A bridge opened in his spiritual sea, and it went straight to the 9 heavens. At that moment, Lin Chen suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with the sharpness of a spirit traveling through the 9 heavens. He suddenly put his palms together, and his hand seals changed at lightning speed. Even his 4 doppelgangers made the same hand seals. Rumble! The vast spiritual energy condensed into 10,000 feet tall spiritual shadows, each with 3 heads and 6 arms. They were like the reincarnation of Azura, and their anger could split the sky. Oh no, this kid's spiritual energy has broken through to the heaven ascension state. The Crimson Queen's expression changed. If both of them had heaven ascension state spiritual energy, even if the other party couldn't completely break through her crimson illusion, there was still a high chance that he could tear open a crack and escape. If Lin Chen were to escape, then she would really lose everything she had invested this time. Her 10,000 years of accumulation would be severely damaged. Ultimate moment. Charging penetration rune. Azura's Fury. Lin Chen fully activated Azura's Fury. With the help of the Grand Beginning Bible and the Ultimate Moment, it wasn't inferior to a purple stare at all. Most importantly, Lin Chen's 4 doppelgangers were using it together with him. The torrential spiritual attack smashed thousands of miles of mountains and rivers as it attacked the Crimson Queen. Spiritual battle technique? The Crimson Queen clenched her teeth and waved her hand. Her 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and hundreds of spiritual blood moonlight blades flew out like snowflakes, raining down like a storm. Chi! Bang! Shura's wrath sliced through the many blood moonlight blades like a blade, but it was still unable to stop the attack. Crimson Queen's spiritual attack was even more powerful. However, when Lin Chen's 20% mind-piercing burst out, he barely managed to block the remaining blood moonlight blade. A chaotic mind-piercing storm suddenly exploded in the void between the two sides. The experts who were previously trapped in the illusion began to show signs of breaking free. TSK. The sound of tearing echoed in the sky, and cracks began to appear at the edge of the crimson illusion. The terrifying confrontation between Lin Chen and the Crimson Queen caused the crimson mirage to tremble. Before the chaotic spiritual storm had passed, the entire crimson illusion began to burn violently with blood-red flames. Lin Chen's expression turned solemn, and all the spiritual fluctuations in the illusion began to stir, igniting the formation and self-destructing the entire illusory realm. The Scarlet Empress is really generous. All of a sudden, Lin Chen released all of his clones. His dignified expression returned to its usual frivolous state as he laughed. Since your spiritual power has reached the Heaven Ascension realm, I bet that you won't die. Blood trickled down the corner of the Crimson Queen's mouth. The moment Lin Chen advanced to the Ascension realm, she already knew that her crimson illusion might not be able to trap him. Rather than wear him down, she might as well finish him off in one go. She wanted to detonate the entire crimson illusion. Its power was strong enough to threaten a 6th-level combat emperor. This was a double-edged sword. If Lin Chen died in the illusion, she would still suffer a loss. However, if Lin Chen was only seriously injured, she could capture this genius youth and use him as a cultivation foundation for her to step into the 6th or 7th-level combat emperor. This was a huge gamble. Unfortunately, cracks have appeared in the illusion. There's no time to regret it. Lin Chen put the Dragon Emperor into his body, and with a relaxed smile, he carried Bai Juanhao on his shoulder. I'll take my leave first, ha. Lin Chen waved his hand and laughed. An extremely uneasy feeling shrouded the Scarlet Empress's heart. Host activated super-dimensional teleportation. Teleporting host to a saved location. Carrying life +1. Required talent points doubled. 220,000 talent points. Teleportation commencing. Swoosh. Lin Chen and Bai Juanhao disappeared into thin air like 2 shadows and became transparent in an extremely short period of time. Silence. An eerie silence. All the combat emperors and the Scarlet Empress, who were still rational, were stunned. The Scarlet Empress, who had searched the entire crimson illusion but couldn't find the two of them, gradually turned pale and gloomy. No. He actually ran away? How did he escape from my crimson illusion? This is impossible, impossible. Shrill screams that sounded as if they had lost their parents echoed around the Scarlet City. At the eastern entrance of the Twilight Mountains, in the void, two figures descended from the sky without any warning, like two polar stars shuttling through the sky. Bai Juanhao floated in the void and fell into a daze. What happened? What kind of movement skill is this? Big Brother Lin Chen brought me away from the Scarlet City in an instant. Super-dimensional teleportation. Consume talent points to teleport to a fixed location. The further the teleportation distance, the higher the talent points consumed, and the longer the cooldown time. The first location that Lin Chen had teleported to was the eastern entrance of the Twilight Mountains. As it required a high amount of talent points, Lin Chen didn't use this talent right away. As a result, he was trapped in the illusion and couldn't activate it. When his mental attack tore a gap in the illusion, he teleported out with Bai Juanhao. He glanced at the super-dimensional teleportation that had entered a cooldown state. There were still 2 days and 23 hours before the next activation. 220,000 talent points consumed in one teleportation. That's ruthless. Lin Chen's heart skipped a beat. Although the consumption of talent points had doubled because of Bai Juanhao, even if he used it alone, with Lin Chen's foundation, he wouldn't be able to withstand a few rounds of consumption. It seems that it can only be used as a life-saving trump card. However, with this super-dimensional teleportation, it won't be so easy for other experts to take Lin Chen's life. Lin Chen smiled inwardly and withdrew his gaze from the system's attribute pain. Releasing his spiritual power, Lin Chen was able to clearly sense even the slightest movement within a radius of several 100,000 miles. Lin Chen tried to activate a wisp of mental energy. Bang! A 10,000 zhang tall mountain 100,000 kilometers away from the mountain range exploded into powder. A wisp of mental energy swept through the air with enough power to overturn rivers and shatter mountains. This was the mental energy of a heavenly ascension state. My purple gold eyes have entered the golden eyes twin realm. When Lin Chen activated his purple gold eyes again, 2 golden lotuses bloomed in Lin Chen's pupils. They were extremely beautiful and mysterious. At this moment, in Lin Chen's eyes, the scene between heaven and earth was completely different. In addition to the good luck and bad luck that wandered between heaven and earth, there were also some energy bodies with extremely strong spiritual chi fluctuations. With Lin Chen's cultivation base, even if he just absorbed a little bit of it, his strength would rapidly increase. These energy bodies came from outside the firmament tower, from the starry sky above the Jiuzhou continent. Without the strength of a Saint Realm expert, no one was qualified to approach them. However, Lin Chen was able to pry into the existence of these energy bodies with the strength of a combat emperor. In the entire Jiuzhou continent, there might not be a second person who could do so. Chapter 584. The Golden Eyes Twin is the highest realm of the Purple Golden Eyes. In the future, I will have the chance to see through my opponent's movements when I fight against a high-level combat emperor. I will be able to predict his movements and gain the upper hand. The golden lotus disappeared into the depths of his pupils. Lin Chen returned to his normal state. He had gained a lot this time. His cultivation had reached the early stage of the second-level combat emperor realm, and his mental strength had reached the heaven ascension realm. His alchemy skills had improved tremendously. He was now able to challenge the concoction of a level 7 elixir. This would play a crucial role in his next move. Big brother, where are we going next? Bai Juanhao asked excitedly. It had only been a year since they last met, but even a 5th-level combat emperor was no match for Lin Chen. How long would it take for them to return to the spiritual state? I know what you're thinking. However, I can't change the overall situation with my current strength. We have to call for help. Lin Chen smiled confidently. Bai Juanhao was confused. Call for help? Who? Call whoever's the best. Bai Juanhao. How? Concoct elixirs. Lin Chen tore the dragon jade that Long Kun gave him. He waited at the entrance of the mountain for less than a day before they met. When he saw Long Kun again, his aura had become terrifying. He was emitting a ferocious dragon breath, as if he was about to advance to the next level. When Bai Juanhao saw Long Kun, he was stunned. Long Kun admired Bai Juanhao's azure dragon bloodline and even wanted to take him as his disciple. The 2 men and 1 dragon passed through the Afterglow mountain range. On the way, Lin Chen used the Golden Eyes twin to search for all the high-level herbs and treasures in the mountain range. With Long Kun's help, Lin Chen obtained nearly 200 level 7 treasures of heaven and earth from the east to the west of the mountain range. With more than 10,000 level 6 herbs, he had another batch of herbs to concoct elixirs. 4 days later, they arrived at main city number 3. As long as the ferocious beasts put on the ferocious beasts' special Beastmaster hoop, they would be able to enter the city. In the mission hall, Lin Chen submitted the mission he had accepted before: collect Shura armor. Each armor costs 10,000 firmament coins. Lin Chen collected a total of 113 Shura armors in the tomb and received 13 million firmament dollars. This terrifying number left Bai Juanhao dumbfounded. Of course, he knew the value of firmament dollars. 13 million firmament dollars could buy a huge amount of cultivation resources. With 13 million firmament dollars, Lin Chen had obtained a total of 22 storage rings from robbing and killing the combat emperors. Including the firmament dollars inside, Lin Chen had a total of 85 million firmament dollars. A huge sum of money. At this price, he could even afford the legendary purple rank high-grade cultivation technique, blue rank trial secret order, and 7th rank top-grade weapon. However, although these were very tempting, they were not what Lin Chen needed the most. He spent 3 million firmament dollars to purchase 20 Emperor Fate pills and 20 Emperor Fate wheel pills. The Emperor Fate wheel pill increased the chances of breaking through to the War Emperor realm by 20%. It was exclusive to the Firmament Tower and was not circulated in the outside world. Since he was about to return to spiritual state, he planned to leave these pills for Ling Yueqi, Bai Ruoyan, Yun Manqing, and the rest of Class 66. Becoming a martial emperor was a process of breaking through life and death. The Emperor Fate pill could save one's life. If they could not become a martial emperor, Lin Chen would rather they spend the rest of their lives at the peak of the Yuan Venerate realm than risk their lives for that illusory chance. With the remaining 800,000 firmament dollars, Lin Chen spent 750,000 firmament dollars to purchase a 7th rank mid-grade elixir recipe. This elixir recipe was very obscure. It was originally worth 1 million firmament dollars, but for some reason, it had been reduced time and time again. However, it was very useful to Lin Chen. After doing all this, Lin Chen, Long Kun, and Bai Juanhao teleported out of the tower from city number 3. Big brother, you want me to bring these elixirs back to Tianzhou? Outside the Firmament Tower, in the void near Baiyu City, Bai Juanhao looked solemn as he took the storage rings that contained more than 10 Emperor Fate pills and Emperor Fate wheel pills. That's right. Bring these elixirs back to Class 66. Tell them that unless they become martial emperors, they are not allowed to enter the spiritual state unless they can win the war. Otherwise, they will never be allowed to enter the spiritual state unless they become martial emperors. Lin Chen instructed seriously. He also gave Bai Juanhao the Azure Aurora ring that the vice principal had given him. This item was a secret treasure that could unleash the full power of a late second-level combat emperor. After Lin Chen became a combat emperor, this item was useless to him. Lin Chen had already used it once, so there were 2 more uses left. It was still very useful to Bai Juanhao. My doppelganger will escort you back. However, just in case, you still have to bring it along. After Lin Chen handed over the Azure Aurora ring, he created a doppelganger. This time, the journey to escort Bai Juanhao was a little long. Lin Chen could not let his doppelganger maintain the ultimate moment and six-fold transformation for the entire journey. Therefore, Lin Chen's doppelganger's true strength was only at the peak of the third-level combat emperor. If he encountered a fourth-level combat emperor, he could only provide cover fire. After disguising the doppelganger's appearance, Bai Juanhao thanked Lin Chen with a heavy heart. Then, he disappeared into the void with his doppelganger. "Kid, where are we going next?" Long Kuan, who had shrunk his body to a size of a few dozen feet, asked. "Wherever there are more experts, that's where we will go." 5 days later, in the Yang family of the Dan state. Today, the Yang family welcomed some important guests. They were the Grand Elders from the Han family and the other 2 super alchemy families. In the secret chamber of the Yang family, the patriarch of the Yang family, 2 Grand Elders, and Yang Qing'er were sitting on the side. Their eyes were filled with curiosity as they stared at the silver-robed young man sitting opposite of them. The 3 alchemy giants beside them were the 3 Grand Elders who hosted the Peak Elixir gathering the other day. When they heard Lin Chen's request, they were shocked. "You want to issue an order? Summon all the experts in the 9 prefectures?" Lin Chen picked up a precious fruit and took a bite. He smiled and nodded. "Yes. With your reputations in the Dan state, if you issue this order on my behalf, it will naturally be the best." With his status as the champion of the Peak Elixir gathering, if he wanted to go out and refine medicine and summon experts, he would naturally attract a lot of experts. However, the problem was, you want to summon experts? Could it be related to the families of the descendants of God? At this moment, the Grand Elder Han Ming from the Super family asked while stroking his beard. When it came to this question, the atmosphere in the secret chamber became tense. If Lin Chen wanted to find people to find trouble with the families of the descendants of God, there would not be many experts in the 9 prefectures who would dare to come. Lin Chen, who was biting the fruit, shook his head and laughed. "I am so handsome, so I am definitely not that stupid. I will personally fight with those fake god families step by step." The patriarch of the Yang family and the Grand Elders raised their eyebrows. The expressions of the other 2 alchemy giants also changed slightly. In the 9 prefectures continent, there was actually someone who dared to call the families of the descendants of God as fake god families. This young man was indeed terrifying. Han Yuanfang of the Han family frowned and asked, "Oh? Then, what is your purpose?" "Go back to the spiritual state with me and fight against the ancient families of the spiritual state. With your information network, I'm sure you know about the war between the ancient families of the spiritual state." Lin Chen smiled, and the others heaved sighs of relief. At least, he was not going to provoke the families of the descendants of God. Otherwise, the families that they helped issue the order would also be implicated. "Then, what is the order?" Han Ming stroked his beard and asked with a smile. Chapter 585. Lin Chen stretched out his finger. "It's simple. You must be at least a 4th-layer combat emperor. I don't want ugly people. I only want people who can fight. There is no limit to the number of people. I will take as many as you want. The reward is that I will give each of you a chance to refine elixirs for free. Of course, the reward will be based on your cultivation and contribution. I can accept any elixirs below the 7th level. Of course, you must prepare your own elixirs and ingredient. I am only responsible for refining the elixirs." Rumble. Violent waves of mental energy filled the secret room. The 3 alchemists almost couldn't control their mental energy. They stood up abruptly and looked at Lin Chen in disbelief. Your alchemy skills have reached the 7th level of high-grade alchemy?" Lin Chen smiled. "I like to show off and boast, but I don't like to boast." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Chen released a wisp of mental energy that was as vast as the abyss and shrouded the secret room. The 3 old men's bodies shook. They couldn't be wrong about this mental energy. Compared to them, it was not far from it. The true mental energy of the reaching heaven realm. At this moment, everyone in the secret room looked at each other in amazement and shock. It was very exciting. A 21-year-old 7th-level alchemy grandmaster. In the entire Jojo continent, there were less than 10 7th-level alchemists. Almost all of them were old monsters who had lived in seclusion during the ancient times. At the age of 21, he had reached a height that others couldn't reach in 20,000 or even 100,000 years. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it. Wait a minute. Lin Chen, when Han Ming followed Lin Chen's mental energy to check his aura, he found that he couldn't detect his battle chi cultivation. The corner of his mouth twitched. That day at the peak elixir meeting, they could easily see through Lin Chen's cultivation. But now, they could only see a web of fire that intertwined like fire dragons. They couldn't see through Lin Chen's cultivation. Could he be a combat emperor? A 21-year-old 7th-level alchemist, who was also a combat emperor. Was he still a human? No wonder he dared to sit here and issue a summons. He did have the power to shake the chaotic situation in the spiritual state. Not even a year had passed since the Peak Pill Assembly, and the current him was already a War Emperor realm expert. In the face of all the experts present, he was completely calm and collected, as if nothing had happened. If it's a high-rank 7 alchemist, I'm afraid that even those old fellows will come into being. Tisk, tsk. A chance to refine a pill for free. Those old monsters won't miss this opportunity. After a long time, the 3 giant alchemists calmed down and shook their heads while laughing. After that, they accepted the request to issue the summons. They wanted to be on good terms with the most monstrous genius in the history of the 9 prefectures. However, they could not directly participate in this matter. There was an unwritten rule between the 9 great provinces. The various ancient families could not interfere in the matters of the other great provinces. If they were exposed, it was very likely that a great war would break out. The pharmacist families in the Danzhou state used their private connections and released an earth-shattering news that swept across the 8 states except for the spiritual state in a very short time. A super-giant alchemist had appeared and was summoning all the experts. Get a chance to refine a pill for free. You can refine any pill below the peak of level 7. Prepare the ingredients yourself. Time limit 2 months. Gathering place: Danzhou State's Yang family. Are you leaving so soon? Prince Lin Chen, aren't you going to stay for a while? In the backyard of the Yang family, Yang Qing'er could not help but call out to Lin Chen, who was flying into the air. Thank you for your kindness, Miss Qing'er. I still have some matters to attend to. See you next time. Lin Chen cupped his fists and smiled. Before he left with Long Kuan, Yang Qing'er's unique and gentle voice reached Lin Chen's ears. I will also go to the spiritual state. When the beauty sent a voice transmission with a hint of stubbornness, Lin Chen shook his head and laughed. Then I will take you to see the scenery of the spiritual state next time. Only the spiritual state has this scenery. 10 days later, in the Far East region of the Divine Land. The Far East region was the most prosperous region in the Divine Land. It was said that this region was protected by the gods, and those who were inclined to the gods could receive the gods' blessings. The Far East region was divided into 6 regions, and they were controlled by the 6 god families. Today, in the Hun family's territory, which was usually the most low-key, Dragon Cloud City welcomed a joyous event. A peerless beauty from the bright state had received the gods' favor and blessings. She was fortunate enough to become the gods' concubine and obtain the gods' ascension. In Dragon Cloud City, it was as if the whole world was celebrating and countless citizens were celebrating. The true God Mountain in Dragon Cloud City was so tall that the peak could not be seen. There was a faint pressure that seemed to be able to suppress all eternity. Countless people surged at the foot of the mountain, and they were cheering excitedly. In a corner at the foot of the mountain, a silver-robed youth with a restrained temperament had an ordinary appearance. However, there was a hint of dominance between his brows, and he seemed to be somewhat unique. He stood at the foot of the mountain and looked up at the statues on the True God Mountain. There were hundreds of statues of beauties, and each of them had their own merits, and they were vivid and lifelike. Every statue was like a living, peerless beauty. They either revealed a painful and tormented expression, or a face of despair, or a face of mournful malevolence. Their beautiful faces were distorted to the point that their facial features could not be seen clearly. All these scenes had been sealed up here for eternity, and the statues had lost all vitality. They were like withered roses that were in full bloom, and the despair before withering was depicted between their brows. Yun Qingxue from the bright state, the newcomer has arrived. Thank you for the true God's gift, thank you for the true God's favor. A huge palanquin with a red curtain started to advance towards the True God Mountain from several tens of thousands of miles away. Everywhere it passed, it received the cheers and blessings of countless people. Today is the day when the true God's blessings descend again. I'm so happy, I'm so envious of that big sister. She was able to ascend and become the God's concubine, and be able to serve the supreme true God. He, little girl, work hard on your cultivation. Perhaps we will also have a chance in the future. Senior sister, why do those women who have been blessed by the true God look like they are in pain before they ascend? That's just an illusion. It's because all the negative emotions left behind when they were getting rid of their mortal bodies are sealed up on the True God Mountain. Ah, so happy! Countless people at the foot of the True God Mountain surged. Tens of thousands of talented women stared straight at the palanquin. They yearned for it, and in their hearts, they were determined to be blessed by the true God. However, what everyone could see was that the beautiful woman in the palanquin had her battle chi sealed up, and her expression was full of fear and despair. I don't want to become the true God's concubine. I only want to decide my own life. Why did you forcibly tie me up here? Father, grandfather, why? No matter how she called out, her voice could not be transmitted out of the palanquin. Her family and clansmen all had gratified smiles on their faces. Below the palanquin, there was a sea of people, and all of them were looking at her with incomparable envy and reverence. When this scene was reflected in Yun Qingxue's eyes, she was both desperate and terrified. In her eyes, those faces that were full of reverence and envy looked both eerie and strange. Chapter 586. The silver-robed young man who was standing at the edge of the mountain saw all of this. His seemingly indifferent eyes were actually brewing a monstrous rage that was about to erupt, carving living people into statues and embedding them into the statues step by step, facing death step by step, torturing people on the verge of death and then turning them into objects. This is not something a human can do. Why are countless people cheering and worshipping? What kind of *T God is this? The silver-robed young man was naturally Lin Chen in disguise. After he arrived at the Far East region, he spent 3 days searching for the location of the sacred tablet of the sacred tablet of the sacred tablet. As for the specific location, he locked onto the area outside of the Hun family. But coincidentally, he ran into the Hun family's happy event today. He recalled that the fake god servant he killed in the Ning family was also from the Hun family. Then, the fake god that was related to the Ning family and wanted to take away Ning Qingxian was also from the Hun family. What Yun Qingxue was going through now was the result that Ning Qingxian would have to face in the future. Lin Chen, who had personally come to the easternmost region, knew just how terrifying this region was. Trillions of creatures were all fake God believers. They did not believe in heaven or earth. They only believed that the true God created heaven and earth, and that the true God had eternal life. Those who did not believe in gods were treacherous people. Billions of people were watching a woman being pushed into the abyss of death with their own eyes. Everyone smiled and no one felt anything strange. What ascension! What true God's blessing! All of it was **t. Lin Chen had heard of the true God's blessing ceremony of the other 5 families. Some of them required little girls to be sacrificed, and some of them used the ceremony of splitting the body as an ascension ceremony. What's more, a certain family of pseudo-gods even asked a middle-aged man of the same sex or older to ascend to death in a ceremony. The scene was disgusting, but in the eyes of the people in the easternmost region, it was extremely normal. As for the Han family, they sealed themselves in the secular world and left everything behind in the mortal world to ascend to the true God's world. It was as if everyone here had been reduced to playthings in the hands of the false gods who had escaped from the 19 levels of the holy world. It would not be an exaggeration to call such a world hell on earth. From the looks of it, it was as if the true God in their hearts told them to immediately die without hesitation. If no one can stop those fake gods, perhaps the future Jojo continent will become a real purgatory in the hands of these fake gods. His pupils contracted, and his killing intent surged. In Lin Chen's heart, he had never felt such extreme anger. He didn't need any responsibilities or burdens. Right now, he just wanted to hammer all those inhumane, false gods to death. Today is such a good day, but you're actually angry. It seems like you're not a native of the easternmost region. A cry of surprise came from behind Lin Chen. The short-haired beauty slowly walked over. Her appearance was outstanding. She wore silver armor and had a heroic bearing. Between her brows, there was a kind of heroic beauty like a blooming rose. Withdrawing his killing intent, Lin Chen became unperturbed. He turned to look at her. That's right. I'm a wandering cultivator who's traveling around. May I know who you are? Wandering cultivator? If you don't have enough mental fortitude for the upcoming ceremony, I advise you not to watch it. The short-haired lady shook her head as a purple-gold glow flashed across her eyes. Lin Chen squinted. This lady's innate talent was very high. She was even stronger than ordinary descendants of the fake gods. She was already a 9th-level Yuan Venerate before the age of 100. Why do you say that, miss? Is there something wrong with the ceremony? Lin Chen feigned ignorance and asked. The Jojo continent is finished. Look at these apathetic people. For the sake of the so-called true God's favor and belief in the true God, they're even willing to abandon their humanity. The silver-armored lady sighed self-deprecatingly and turned to look at the sculpture on the true God mountain in a daze. If everyone becomes a lackey of the true God and abandons their humanity, becoming a plaything in their palms, what hope is there left in this world? Wouldn't such a world be hell? It's precisely because of this that someone needs to change, Lin Chen suddenly said. Change? How? What can one person do? Those who know the truth are pretending to be asleep, while those who understand the truth are lowering their heads and blindfolding themselves to become the true God's lackeys. Our opponents are far beyond our knowledge. They can crush countless war emperors with a single finger. It's useless. The collapse of this world is a foregone conclusion. They have already come to our world. Unless the almighties of the sacred boundary take action, we can't escape. The heroic silver-armored lady revealed a hint of despair. Lin Chen frowned. At this moment, the palanquin had already arrived in front of the true God mountain. The ceremony had officially begun. The palanquin stopped in front of the true God mountain. Yun Qingxue was forcefully escorted to the true God's favor stage by 2 false god servants. On the favor stage, a few false god servants and an elder of the Han family pushed out a simple iron coffin. There was a circular groove at the top for the head to be placed in. Iron chains were intertwined on both sides of the iron coffin. The 2 sides of the iron coffin had more than a dozen sharp iron spikes. The iron spikes were circulating with light, as if they had some kind of magical power that attracted the attention of countless people. The appearance of this iron coffin terrified Yun Qingxue. She tried to retreat, but the 2 false god servants held her down so tightly that she couldn't move. No. Don't. Yun Qingxue kept shaking her head. Her delicate body trembled violently. Her white teeth bit her bloodless lips. When tears streamed down her cheeks, no one could hear her sobbing. At this moment, above the endless void, outside of the 9 prefectures, in the starry sky, on a divine mountain, a phantom appeared. Its gaze was fixed on the direction of the 9 prefectures' continent's far east region. Ah! This is the expression, this is the despair. This is something that can't be seen in the holy prison. Yun Qingxue, right? Ha ha, more despair, more pain. You will become a unique work of art in this world. You will become my masterpiece. The phantom no longer had the awe-inspiring and upright aura of the past. It only had an almost crazy excitement and fanaticism, as well as a completely distorted voice and face. Whoosh! Seeing the iron coffin appear, billions of creatures at the foot of the true God mountain cheered and celebrated. The true God's favor. As long as one entered the iron coffin, they could transcend the mortal world and leave all worldly things in the world. They could fly out of the 9 prefectures and become a part of the true God's side. Yun Qingxue was pushed into the iron coffin. Then, the fake God's servant used iron chains to lock her limbs. Her entire body was bound in the iron coffin. When the iron coffin's 2 doors closed, the spikes would pierce her body. Step by step, she would feel death and taste despair. When the doors finally closed completely, she would become a living statue. She would forever remain in this world in the most desperate and helpless state. An elder of the Han family slowly stood up and recited the opening speech of the ceremony. We are grateful to the true God. We are sincere in our hearts. Today, another lucky person has become the luckiest person in the 9 prefectures. It is our honor to be blessed by the true God. Yun Qingxue, who was in the iron coffin, could only sob silently. She seemed to have foreseen the final result of her life. You said that this world can't be changed. Is it because they came, but the sacred boundary didn't save the 9 prefectures? Suddenly, Lin Chen opened his mouth. The silver-armored woman was stunned. She stared at his back. If you feel that the 9 prefectures are lacking, you can change it. Start with yourself. Start with your side. If enemies break in, do everything you can to drive them away. Instead of only knowing how to sigh, complain, and escape from reality by placing their hopes elsewhere. There's nothing that can be changed without effort. The young man's deep voice was sonorous and powerful. Where you stand is the godly land. Whatever you do, the godly land will be. If you are bright, the godly land will always have a trace of light. If the people of the godly land and the 9 prefectures are all righteous and united, these demons and monsters who only dare to hide in the dark won't be able to do whatever they want in the 9 prefectures. The silver-armored woman stared at the young man's back and said self-mockingly, "Who doesn't know how to say beautiful words? How can you do it?" The young man tore off his disguise mask. A younger and fiercer side profile appeared in front of the silver-armored woman. He looked back at the silver-armored woman and said, "Even a firefly can shine in the darkness. There is no need to wait for the torch." The silver-armored woman was shocked when she saw his true face. "You are Lin of the spirit state." The silver-armored woman didn't finish her sentence. Lin Chen ignored her and walked toward the true God mountain. His eyes were deep and his tone was calm. "If there is no torch in the 9 prefectures, we will be the only light." With that, Lin Chen leaped into the air. Bang! The ground under his feet shattered. The purple phoenix wings spread across the sky. In the void, the purple wings flapped. The young man in a silver robe was reflected in the eyes of billions of people. He raised his hand, clenched his fist, and punched the true God mountain. Chapter 587. The Green Dragon's possession added 4 million dragon energy points to his body like an erupting volcano. The power of his punch turned into thousands of dragons and hit the true God mountain. Bang! Rumble! A violent explosion rang out, and the true God mountain shone with a resplendent brilliance, tightly protecting the mountain. However, Lin Chen's speed was so fast that no one could react in time. Although True God Mountain did not activate its defensive array and protected the mountain, Lin Chen's penetration rune allowed 20% of his punch's power to pass through True God Mountain, shattering all of the female sculptures. At this moment, the millions of people in the easternmost region of the Divine Land were stunned. The elders and false god servants of the Hun family were also stunned. Where did this arrogant kid come from? How could he shatter the statues of the True God Mountain with one punch? The five-colored dragon energy circled around and the war spear flashed in his hand. Lin Chen suddenly activated the quintuple transformation and the ultimate moment. His cultivation level temporarily reached the late stage of the second stage. In the next moment, the combat emperor elders and false god servants of the Hun family finally reacted when they saw him taking out his spear and sensing Lin Chen's skyrocketing aura. They were enraged and furious. Where did this rascal come from? How dare he offend the divine power? How dare you attack the True God Mountain? You're asking for death. All the experts were instantly enraged. There were 3 who were at the 5th level of the War Emperor realm and above, and they all charged towards Lin Chen. Swoosh, 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 bang, bang. The moonlight flashed and 3 figures appeared like ghosts. They blasted away the combat emperors who were trying to get close to Lin Chen. The moment they were pushed back, Lin Chen attacked. Fighting Emperor 78 style, moon-splitting galaxy. He swung his spear and a huge moonlight appeared. It struck the True God Mountain like lightning. The light that protected the True God Mountain suddenly exploded, and the moonlight that pierced the sky was split into 2. Rumble! The True God Mountain was split into 2. At this moment, the situation changed and the millions of people in the Divine Land were furious. Where did this disrespectful person come from? How dare he blaspheme the divine power? Die! This person must die. True God Mountain is a miracle. How can it allow mortals to invade? Countless curses and angry roars resounded through the sky. Streaks of light flew out as countless heavenly dipper martialists and Yuan venerates flew out of the crowd. They didn't care about Lin Chen's strength at all. They just wanted to kill Lin Chen. The silver-armored woman's face turned pale as she looked at the surging tide of people. Could it be that he wasn't afraid of death? Could it be that he wanted to challenge the might of the heavens? Didn't he know that he would be hunted down by the tens of billions of believers of God in the far eastern region of the Divine Land? True God Mountain was in an uproar, but the silver-armored woman inexplicably recalled his words. If there is no torch in 9 regions, we will be the only light. Chi! A tearing sound came from the sky. After the True Deity Mountain cracked open, a furious and cold scolding sound came from the sky to the bottom of the True Deity Mountain. Mortal, how dare you offend me? This voice completely frightened all the living beings present. A true god of the Hun family. This was the voice of the true god behind the Hun family. Everyone's hearts trembled. Could it be that the true god's anger was about to descend upon the 9 regions continent? Great true god, please calm down. It's over. How can we, mere mortals, withstand the anger of a true god? Countless people knelt on the ground and wailed. Lin Chen held the spear with one hand and pointed it at the sky. F***ck off. What kind of god are you? You are just a fake god. Why are you pretending to be a wolf with a big tail? You deceived the world to gain fame. If you are not convinced, come out and fight with us if you have the guts. If I frown today, I will King change my surname to yours. If you don't dare to show yourself, you are trash. This scolding made countless powerhouses suck in a cold breath. Where did this lunatic come from? He actually dared to challenge the might of a true god. Even the true god had spoken, yet he still dared to scold a true god? Since the true god had spoken, no one dared to act rashly. They were afraid of angering this great true god. I don't need to do anything to deal with an ant like you. Mere mortal. Mortal my ass. What are you pretending for? Come and hit me if you have the guts. Lin Chen interrupted the fake god's speech and showed his middle finger to express his stance. You piece of sh*t. How dare you call yourself a true god just because you hide in the dark? My name is Lin Itchy Skin today. Come on, come and f***ck me. You motherf***ker. You are just a piece of sh*t. A piece of sh*t that escaped from the prison at the sacred boundary. Still pretending to be a true god? What are you pretending for? You don't even look like a man when you pretend to be a true god. Everyone sucked in a few breaths of cold air. Especially those battle emperors who were hiding in the depths and came from outside the divine land. They felt their scalps go numb. What kind of big shot was this? He split the true god mountain the moment he appeared and even scolded this fake true god in front of countless fake true gods. Boom! In the void of millions of miles in the easternmost region, the wind and clouds were turbulent. Blood clouds surged and exploded, as if some apocalyptic natural disaster was about to descend on the true God mountain. Lin Chen's words of a piece of sh*t that escaped from the prison at the sacred boundary seemed to have angered the fake true god. Is the coward going to poke his head out? Lin Chen's face was full of mockery and calmness. Just as a certain aura was about to descend on the 9 prefectures, some regions of the vast 9 prefectures began to throb. The remaining world-suppressing sacred steels began to emit endless sacred light that would shine for eternity. Just as the aura was about to descend on the divine land, it suddenly shrank back. Those saints who had fallen and those who had been praised for eternity, even after death, their wills were still protecting this continent. What's wrong? You don't dare? A piece of trash who can't even show himself. What qualifications does he have to call himself a true god? Lin Chen roared thunderously and waved his fist angrily. He punched the bottom of the true god mountain again. The wind from his fist turned into a shock wave that exploded on the blessing stage. It overturned many fake true god servants and the war emperor realm elders of the Hun family and sent them flying to the side. The inhumane iron cabinet shattered into pieces. Yun Qingxue was affected by the wind from his fist, but her battle chi seal was torn apart. She could use battle chi again. Let's go. Lin Chen's voice came from afar. Yun Qingxue's beautiful eyes flickered as she regained her vitality. She immediately understood and took advantage of the chaos to escape. At this moment, everyone's attention was attracted by Lin Chen. No one paid attention to Yun Qingxue at all. Did you see clearly? Your so-called true god can't even show himself. How can he create and destroy the world? The 9 prefectures is the land that our 100 saints and ancestors protected. It is the land that our countless ancestors defended with their flesh and blood. Why should we believe in these fake true gods of unknown origins? Lin Chen roared. Facing hundreds of millions of people of the divine land and tens of thousands of experts, he was arrogant and fearless. Lin Chen saw the numb and murderous expressions around him. He frowned. These guys were used to being a group of dogs that wagged their tails and begged for mercy. It was very difficult to turn them back into humans. Chapter 588. However, Lin Chen had already achieved his objective on this trip. Now, he was not qualified to challenge the Hun family. Even if he used the Godslayer, he might not be able to uproot the Hun family. Moreover, the Godslayer was his trump card when he returned to the spiritual state. He would not use it here easily, because his reaching heaven realm mind power had sensed that a true master was on the move. Mortal who misled the public with his lies, I don't need to do anything to deal with you. At this moment, the Hun family's fake god's hoarse voice was heard again, causing the space crystal walls to distort. If you can't show yourself, just say it. Why are you pretending to be a wolf? You don't even dare to fart when I split your godly mountain. How dare you call yourself a true god? Lin Chen looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. The Han family's fake god's voice had a tinge of anger. Today you have offended my godly prestige. Hundreds of clans will be punished. My godly prestige is inviolable. Rumble. Bang. 2 auras appeared from 100,000 miles away. They were 2 6th-level combat emperors. With the activation of the Golden Eyes twin, Lin Chen sensed that a few powerful battle auras were gradually awakening from 1,000,000 miles away. They came from the Han family. They were at least 7th-level combat emperors. They might even be 8th-level combat emperors. Unless Lin Chen used the Godslayer and Sovereign's Descent, it would be difficult for him to have a third method to deal with such a master. Fake God, remember your grandfather's name, Lin Chen? At this moment, Lin Chen laughed heartily. Some masters could not help but be shocked. This kid dared to reveal his name? Was he not afraid of the Han family's crazy attack? Billions of fake gods' followers were even more shocked. They were too familiar with this name. Lin Chen, the young man who once specialized in killing the descendants of gods. It was him. The person who destroyed the true God Mountain today was a young man who was only a Yuan Venerate less than a year ago. Wasn't he a Yuan Venerate before? How long has it been? Even a late-stage 4th-level combat emperor was defeated by his clone. I just realized that this kid is too young. He is only 21 years old, right? A 21-year-old combat emperor. Even the descendants of the gods had never reached such heights. It has never appeared in the history of the 9 prefectures. The Han family has offended a terrifying existence. However, is there something wrong with this kid's head? Could it be that he wanted to rely on his current strength to break through the encirclement of the Han family? Potential and combat strength are 2 completely different things. The combat emperors from all over the 9 continents were secretly shocked. As the space distorted, 2 figures appeared above Lin Chen's head like ghosts. Capture him for me, dead or alive. The cold voice of the Han family's fake god sounded from the sky. TSK. 2 blazing and swift bolts of light shot out like venomous snakes, fiercely twisting towards Lin Chen's surroundings. Rip. His figure drew a half-moon arc. As the faint moonlight flowed, he dodged the 2 attacks in advance. The blazing flame split the ground. 8 desolate finger. Lin Chen and his clone kept their weapons and pointed their fingers. The heavenly calamity battle chi transformed into 8 colored desolate energy fingers and pushed them forward. 4 sections of desolate energy fingers condensed terrifying pure energy and world-destroying desolate energy and struck the 2 figures, rolling up a world-destroying chaotic energy storm. It began to expand continuously. The penetrating characteristic further increased the power. Lin Chen did not want to continue fighting. The 2 people who suddenly appeared were at least 6th-level combat emperors. This 8 desolate finger was just to delay time. He activated his innate skill Pain and issued an order. System, activate super-dimensional teleportation. Just as Lin Chen was about to activate the super-dimensional teleportation to leave, the system popped up a screen. In the midst of the raging energy storm, an aura quietly died. Host has activated the Emperor Slayer innate skill. Target life form has been insta-killed. Congratulations to the host for triggering a special reward mechanism. You are rewarded with 1 orange crystal treasure chest. An orange light pillar bloomed in the energy storm. Lin Chen was stunned. Insta-killed? He, Lin Chen, actually insta-killed a 6th-level combat emperor? At that time, Long Qi had fought until the sky turned dark. He had to use all his skills to kill him. The most important thing was the 2nd orange crystal treasure chest. It actually appeared at this critical moment and even triggered the insta-kill mechanism of the Emperor Slayer. One had to know that Lin Chen's first orange crystal treasure chest had directly opened the complete God Slayer innate skill. A treasure chest of this level was simply something that could only be encountered by chance. Damn, this is an unexpected surprise. Let's go all out. Lin Chen gritted his teeth fiercely. His purple-golden eyes flashed. A few 7th-level combat emperors, and above from the Hun family, had already begun to move. He did not have time to wait. Lin Chen activated the 1,000 Mountains armor. When he activated the gold silver emperor armor, he activated a defensive barrier and rushed into the chaotic energy storm. 8 waves of desolate energy formed a huge energy wave that rushed over. Lin Chen's qi and blood churned, causing him to feel dizzy. The aftermath of this energy wave was too terrifying. Even a late 5th-level combat emperor would be in mortal danger if they barged in. Lin Chen rushed in forcefully. He flapped his purple phoenix wings continuously and took away the huge amount of attribute light balls left behind by the 6th-level combat emperor, who was insta-killed by the Emperor Slayer innate skill, as well as the storage ring that was about to shatter. Finally, Lin Chen rushed towards the orange light pillar. When he grabbed the orange crystal treasure chest in the orange light pillar, Lin Chen did not have the time to check what he had obtained. A remnant light flashed past the vacuum behind him. It was the other 6th-level combat emperor from before. Although I don't know why you barged in and how you killed Hunming, you have angered a god today. You will die without a doubt. The 6th-level combat emperor's eyes revealed an ominous glint. He was not afraid that Lin Chen had insta-killed a combat emperor who was at the same level as him. He threw a punch at Lin Chen. These combat emperors were all men of sacrifice, trained by the Hun family's false god. They would not hesitate to die for the true god in their hearts. Lin Chen's expression changed slightly. He turned around abruptly, raised his hand and punched back. The 2 fists collided with a loud bang, bang, rumble, crack, crack. The crisp sound of bones cracking could be heard. The bones in Lin Chen's right arm were shattered. Fortunately, his flesh shell was tough and did not shatter immediately. The opponent's combat chi fist wind was like a twisting dragon, twisting into Lin Chen's body and crushing his 1,000 Mountains Xian armor. In the end, most of the force was blocked by the gold silver emperor armor. Even so, the remaining force of the attack still made Lin Chen spit out a mouthful of blood. At the moment when he threw out his fist, he had activated his super-dimensional teleportation innate skill, consumed 170,000 innate skill, activating super-dimensional teleportation innate skill, sending the host to the first fixed spatial location. A strand of spatial divine light flashed and extinguished, and then Lin Chen's entire body suddenly vanished. The combat emperor who threw out his fist was stunned on the spot. What kind of movement skill was that? What kind of secret manual was that? How did he disappear without any warning? There was no aura or trace left behind. Even the combat emperor had never heard of it. Rip. 4 illusory figures tore through the void and appeared. When they arrived, the heaven and earth cracked open like giant pythons. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 589. 4 silhouettes suddenly appeared. Their auras covered the sky and the earth, giving off an oppressive feeling that could suppress a group of emperors. They were the combat emperors of the Hun family, 2 7th-level combat emperors and 2 8th-level combat emperors. 2 of the 8th-level combat emperors flicked their sleeves and grabbed with one hand. The energy storm caused by Lin Chen's 8 desolate finger was swallowed by a whirlpool of energy and turned into nothingness in 2 breaths' time. This kind of method caused the combat emperors to tremble in fear. Where is he? Hunlong, what are you doing? Where is the kid who offended the god? The 2 8th-level combat emperors scolded the remaining 6th-level combat emperor. The latter's body trembled and he cupped his fists. I don't know. I just exchanged a punch with that kid and he disappeared. Just as the 2 8th-level combat emperors were about to condemn him, the cold voice came from the sky again. Enough. That person has escaped. You can't catch up with him. Hearing the voice of the fake god of the Hun family, the elder of the Hun family trembled. He bowed respectfully and said, "May the true god be appeased. Issue an arrest warrant. Those who offend the god must die." With a simple sentence, the cold voice slowly faded away. The eyes of the elders of the Hun family suddenly became extremely sharp. As for those who had gathered here and managed to get a seat to watch the ceremony, their hearts were filled with shock. Lin Chun of the spirit state. He broke into the ceremony of the true god of the Hun family. Not only did he split the true god mountain, he also offended the god and scolded the true god. Even though he was an enemy, everyone in the easternmost region felt a deep sense of uneasiness. After the people of the Hun family left, the silver-armored lady stared blankly at the true god mountain that was split into two halves. The young man's words echoed in her heart, causing ripples in her heart. After being lost in thought for a moment, the silver-armored lady turned around and walked towards the white-robed elder. "Seventh elder, I want to enter the secret realm of the life and death trial." The white-robed elder's expression froze and he said involuntarily, "Young lady, that is a secret realm that only combat emperors can enter. It doesn't matter. If I fail to break through to the combat emperor realm, I'll still die. Rather than that, I might as well give it my all." The silver-armored woman's expression was calm, as if she didn't care about life or death. Before leaving True God Mountain, she turned around and looked in the direction Lin Chun had disappeared. "I wonder if I can be like you and become a firefly. Kid, are you alright?" "It's nothing. I just exchanged a punch with a 6th-level combat emperor." "Damn, a 6th-level combat emperor is really something." In a deep abyss, Long Kuen's shrunken dragon body was revealed. It was lying at the bottom of the abyss, and beside it was Lin Chun, who was covered in injuries. This was the location that Lin Chun had found and used the super-dimensional teleportation point in advance. It was very close to the location of the sacred monument of Imperial God, Xianlong No. 47. It was located at the border of the Hun family's territory. "Right, have those fellows made a move yet?" Lin Chun asked as he withdrew a jade bottle from his spatial ring. "Yes, all of them have moved out. However, it seems that they haven't left this area yet. We need to wait for a while before we move out." "Alright, I'll heal my injuries first." Lin Chun sat cross-legged and swallowed a 7th-level low-grade medicinal pill to heal his injuries. He even activated the ultimate moment to circulate the wood spirit essence technique, temporarily increasing the efficiency and speed of his healing. A few hours later, Lin Chun opened his eyes and a strong vitality was revealed from his body. "Phew, luckily I had concocted a backup medicinal pill when I was rushing back to Dan Province. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it in time." Even if he had the life growth talent and the wood spirit essence technique, what Lin Chun lacked the most right now was time. If he was delayed in healing his injuries, all his efforts would have been in vain. Lin Chun wasn't foolishly going to True God Mountain to cause trouble. He purposely went there to attract the attention of the enemies. His goal was to force out all the hidden experts of the Hun family. This was because the world-suppressing sacred Steel 47 was guarded by the experts of the Hun family. Although they couldn't enter the sacred steel, they didn't plan to give it to outsiders. If Lin Chun forced his way in, the experts of the Hun family might not be able to escape. However, if it was an ordinary matter, those 7th-level combat emperors and above wouldn't easily come out of seclusion. However, if the legendary blessing ceremony was destroyed, they wouldn't be afraid that they wouldn't come out of seclusion. This method was akin to walking on the tip of a blade. Even the sky would be pierced through. This was because the overall strength of the Hun family was many times stronger than any of the false god families. Their foundation was the strongest in the eastern region of the Divine Continent. If it was a one-on-one battle, no family could be compared to the Hun family. It had even forced the false god hiding behind the Hun family to show himself. Using his existence to mobilize the top experts of the Hun family, Lin Chen would be able to sneak into the sacred steel once they were far away from this place. Not enough. These guys are very cautious. They think that I haven't gone far and are still conducting a thorough search. I guess I still need to wait for a while. With the activation of the Golden Pupil's twin, Lin Chen clearly saw the situation of the Hun family. At this moment, the outside world was in an uproar. There were already more than 13 7th-level combat emperors and 5 8th-level combat emperors searching for Lin Chen. Not to mention the 6th and 5th-level combat emperors. 13 7th-level combat emperors and 5 8th-level combat emperors. What kind of lineup was this? Lin Chen and Long Kun wouldn't be able to escape from any of them. This showed how big of a trouble Lin Chen had gotten himself into. It was equivalent to throwing a bomb into the deep sea and blowing up the head of the fish in the deep sea. All the piranhas were blown up and scrambled to jump out. After a period of time, the name Lin Chen would be known throughout the 9 prefectures. The Hun family had always kept a low profile. Hence, they didn't reveal their background. This time, the outside world knew how terrifying the background of the Hun family was. TSK. If this was in my era, this group of experts would be strong enough. Kid, what did you do to blow up all these old foxes? Long Kun clicked his tongue in wonder and turned to ask Lin Chen. He shrugged his shoulders. It's nothing serious. I just pointed my middle finger at that false god and casually chopped his mountain. Casually chopped a mountain? If the elders of the Hun family heard this, they would be so angry that they would shit themselves. Long Kun didn't really understand. In his era, the false god family hadn't risen yet. He couldn't fully understand the impact of Lin Chen's actions. Since I can't take action for now. Oh right. My orange treasure chest. Lin Chen came back to his senses. He slapped his thigh and opened the system. Among the many screens, the most dazzling orange screen caused Lin Chen's jaw to drop in shock. Host has obtained an orange treasure chest. Opening the treasure chest to obtain a quasi-orange rank talent fragment. Absolute life and death, 1/3. Chapter 590. After reading the introduction, Lin Chen's heart couldn't calm down for a long time. It was too crazy. Compared to the previous talents, the price was on a completely different level. It required one to gamble with one's life. Once activated, it would decide the winner and the loser. If the God Slayer talent was the strongest talent for group battles, then this absolute life and death talent might be the strongest for solo battles. Burning all of one's strength in battle and deciding life and death in one battle, what a crazy talent. As long as enough talents are collected, this talent can be used forever. Lin Chen's heart trembled. This would be the strongest talent other than the God Slayer talent. Suddenly, Lin Chen thought of a possibility and immediately asked the system. System, if I use both the God Slayer talent and absolute life and death talent at the same time, can the two talents be stacked? Answer to the host, yes. However, the increase in strength is based on the addition of the basic values and not multiplication. For example, when the host's combat strength is 550 and activating both the absolute life and death talent at the same time, the God Slayer talent will increase by 1,000 times while the absolute life and death will increase by 500 times. The result will be 550 by 1500. Instead of 550 by 1000 by 500. Lin Chen understood that the increase in strength was only addition and not multiplication. There are still 2 fragments left. This strongest solo battle talent will belong to me. Lin Chen was excited. Even if this talent was crazy, he still welcomed it. If he really had to use the absolute life and death talent, it meant that he was already in a desperate situation. With this talent in hand, at least he still had a chance to fight. Glancing at his own attributes, he still had 28 million rune energy and 23 million talent points. Previously, when the 6th-level combat emperor fell, Lin Chen had contributed a lot of attribute points. System: decompose all the treasures in the storage ring. Lin Chen threw out 20 storage rings. These were the spoils of war that he had obtained when he fought his way from the Firmament Tower to the extreme east region. Consumed 75600 Heaven's Path Point. Decomposing target storage ring. Decomposing 7th grade ores, 7th grade mid-grade damaged weapons, 7th grade low-grade treasured weapons, 3 types of purple grade mental cultivation methods, 28 types of purple grade cultivation methods obtained from decomposition, 280 points of wind energy, 11,500 points of blood energy, 15,080 points of battle aura essence, 12,300 points of cultivation technique essence, 360 points of fire energy, 245 points of light energy, 6,840 points of heaven's path, 8,900 points of rune energy, 9,800 points of talent points. Another pile of attribute values entered his body, and Lin Chen's attributes increased once more. The increase in his elemental attribute values also increased the power of his heavenly tribulation body and the 9 tribulations star. Compared to the time when he fought Long Qi, Lin Chen's 9 tribulation stars was far more powerful than before. Lin Chen had already taken away the grade 7 herbs, and the grade 7 low-grade ores and grade 7 low-grade weapons were no longer of much use to Lin Chen. Even if he added them into the fusion function, the effect would be minimal, and the decomposition function would be more practical. A bright light flashed in between Lin Chen's brows. When he opened his eyes, the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. My 4th phantom doppelganger has been removed. It seems like Jun Hao has safely arrived in the Tianzhou. The return of the 4th doppelganger gave Lin Chen more confidence to challenge the world-suppressing Saint Steel 47. The increase in strength that a doppelganger could bring was far more than ordinary methods. Activating the golden pupil's twin, Lin Chen looked around. At this moment, there were almost no high-grade combat emperors left in the Han family's territory, and the Han family's elders who were guarding the world-suppressing Saint Steel were only 3/4 level combat emperors. Normally, no one would dare to act presumptuously in the Han family's territory. Therefore, the experts guarding the world-suppressing Saint Steel weren't the strongest. It's time, Brother Kuan, let's capture him. Let's do it. Late at night, the moon was bright. In the southernmost region of the Han family's territory, at the center of the desolate Dragon Mountain Range, there were 2 valleys that were shaped like a crescent moon. The world-suppressing Saint Steel contained the power of the previous saint. That fake god didn't dare to build his base camp too close to the world-suppressing Saint Steel. If the world-suppressing Saint Steel sensed his aura, it would probably unleash its last bit of power to expel the Han family. 2 obscure auras flashed past, causing the space to ripple slightly. On the peak of a mountain outside of the 2 valleys, a pavilion was built. On top of the pavilion, 2 figures suddenly opened their eyes. Strange, it seems like there's an aura of a high-grade beast approaching? We have already wiped out all the high-grade beasts nearby. Why would there be another one that dares to come near? The 2 figures flashed and appeared under the moonlight. They glanced around and saw an azure dragon that was moving at an extremely fast speed. Their expressions changed slightly. A 10,000-year profound azure dragon with purple phoenix wings? What the F***ck is this? While the 2 were still in shock, a grayish-white talisman was shot out. The talisman exploded beside them, catching them off guard. Slow talisman. Qi. While the 2's battle qi was circulating and the surrounding space was being slowed down, Long Kuan's body suddenly expanded to a size of 3,000 meters. He then used the Azure Dragon Tail Strike, which contained the strength of a star explosion meteor. Bang! With its pure strength of 5.99 million dragon power points, the 2 late stage 4th level combat emperors were severely injured and vomited blood. Extreme Palace Aqua Light. A snowflake sword light flashed past and beheaded the 2 combat emperors. 2 combat emperors fell. Almost 100 attribute light balls burst out. Ah! Enemy attack. When a few screams were heard, Lin Chen waved the white frost green rainbow sword in his hand. A sword chi cut through the void and formed a space barrier, isolating the sound and space. The screams were not heard. Inside the pavilion, 4 clones dashed out. 10 half-step emperors and 3 4th level combat emperors were instantly killed and suppressed. Obtained 180 points of earth elemental energy, 9,800 points of rune energy, 8,500 talent points, 15,000 battle chi essence. Lin Chen kept the attribute light balls of the 3 fallen combat emperors. He exchanged glances with Long Kuan and rushed to the 2 half-moon mountain valleys. From the outside there was nothing special about the gorge. However, only those who were at the combat emperor realm and above could sense that there was a mysterious energy hidden deep inside the gorge, and no attacks could hurt it at all. This is the sacred tablet of Imperial God, Mysterious Dragon, and number 47. Lin Chen's pupils shrank as he jumped into the mountain valleys. Chapter 591. Lin Chen stepped into the center of the gorge and saw a stone platform standing on the surface of the lake in the center. He walked to the front of the stone platform and saw a strange pattern on it, a dragon and a saber. If one were to look at it normally, one would be unable to discern any secrets at all. Even Lin Chen's golden eyes twin was only able to see a trace of extremely obscure karmic luck patterns. It was unrealistic to say that one would be able to deduce the secrets of this item based on this. With the blood essence as the guide, draw the pattern of the dragon and carve the seal of the saber. A message flashed in his mind. This was the memory of when he received the inheritance. Lin Chen cut his fingertip and drew on the surface of the stone platform. He used his blood to carve the pattern, recalling the scene of the strange pattern he received when he received the demonic emperor's inheritance. When the dragon and saber were successfully carved, the stone platform began to shake, stirring up layers of waves on the surface of the lake. The stone platform glowed with a purple light, and an obscure voice entered his mind. No. Sacred boundary, prison bloodline, can enter, boom, boom, boom. When the ground shook, an aura with the stone platform as the center swept up violently, directly flipping the giant Long Kuan over. What's going on? Brother Long Kuan, it seems that only the person who opened the stone platform can enter. I'll have to trouble you to guard the outside world this time. If there's any fatal danger, you can leave first. Don't worry about me. Lin Chen suddenly transmitted his voice, and Long Kuan cursed. Damn it, I came here specially to see the inheritance of the ancient human saints, and you won't let me in? F***ck. You human saints are so troublesome. Long Kuan cursed and then coiled his dragon body to guard the outside world. An obscure voice sounded in Lin Chen's mind. Purple light for the people of the 9 states. Blue light for the descendants of the sacred prison. Human descendants can pass. When a few spiritual remnants entered his mind, Lin Chen turned to look at the swaying gorge. He narrowed his eyes, shook his head, and exclaimed, "How magical! The land of inheritance can only be opened by verifying one's bloodline. It seems that if the descendants of the fake gods were to open it, they might be obliterated by the sacred monument. Even if the fallen saints and ancestors died, they did not intend to give the fake gods a chance to fish in troubled waters." Whoosh! Lin Chen's figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared. What he didn't notice before he left was that before the stone platform sank to the bottom of the lake, the wisp of purple light began to emit an extremely faint orange light. The orange light grew brighter and brighter, completely overshadowing the purple light. The purple light was the proof of the bloodline of the people of the 9 prefectures, while the blue light was the proof of the bloodline of the fake gods. Lin Chen, on the other hand, had an orange glow. As the stars moved, Lin Chen arrived at a deathly silent spacetime plane. The gloomy spacetime plane exuded a deathly aura. This place was filled with withered bones. These skeletons were of a jade-green color. They flickered like fireflies, illuminating the darkness within the dimension. "It's the remains of an emperor!" Lin Chen was shocked. The skeletal remains here emitted endless bleak and ancient auras. They had probably been here for hundreds of thousands of years. Only the remains of a ruler could not decay after such a long time. Based on a rough estimation, there should be more than 400 war emperors' remains here. Didn't that mean that more than 400 war emperors had fallen here? That was the war emperor realm, not the Yuan Venerate realm. More than 400 war emperors had fallen. What level of battle had that been? Lin Chen continued forward. He gradually saw a stone tablet that reached the 9 heavens. It stood between heaven and earth, exuding a brilliant sacred aura that illuminated and protected an area. "This is the world-suppressing sacred tablet number 47, Lin Chen exclaimed. It was indeed a sacred item. He could feel its aura even from far away. Any war emperor would be like an ant in front of it. In front of the world-suppressing sacred tablet, Lin Chen saw a beast battle arena. Lin Chen's pupils shrank. He suddenly saw a world-destroying beast lying in the beast battle arena. Its body was covered in azure scales. It had the head of an eagle, the face of a tiger, the claws of an eagle, the arms of a lion, the spine of a black dragon, the tip of its tail like a sword, and 4 wings. The aura that the azure beast exuded was extremely terrifying. It almost had the power to destroy the world. Peak level 7? No, it's very likely that it's even above that. Lin Chen sucked in a breath of cold air. If it was above the peak level 7, wouldn't it be an 8th level sacred beast? An existence of this level was no different from a saint. In the current Jiuzhou continent, there were no traces of 8th level sacred beasts. Even if they still existed, they were extremely rare existences. Buzz. That creature that seemed to be an 8th level sacred beast opened its eyes. Its azure pupils revealed a deathly aura that was past its prime, but it still contained endless savagery and murderous aura. "Those who disturb the Lord's slumber die. Human, you have one last chance. Turn around and leave, and you can keep your life. If you dare to take another step forward, die. Die." A low roar burst forth with a monstrous, murderous aura. The surrounding space trembled, and it shook Lin Chen so much that he almost lost his hearing and felt dizzy. 2 streams of blood flowed out from his ears. Lin Chen circulated the wood spirit essence technique to heal his injuries while suppressing the surging qi and blood in his body. He was shocked. "It's indeed a sacred beast. It's only warning me. Otherwise, it could kill me with a casual strike." Lin Chen stood in the same place. He didn't retreat, nor did he move forward. He fell into deep thought. Sacred beasts were extremely intelligent. It was unlikely that they didn't know about the bloodline test set by their master. If they didn't come with good intentions, they wouldn't have entered this boundary-suppressing sacred steel. However, since he had entered, it proved that he met the requirements of the sacred steel's original master. Then, why did it warn him? "Those who disturb the Lord's slumber die." Could it be? A flash of understanding appeared in his mind. He had already entered the boundary-suppressing sacred steel area. Wasn't that disturbing? Moreover, as a sacred beast, it was impossible that it didn't know that a human had entered its master's resting place. Why would it let him leave? Wouldn't it be allowing the news to leak out? In just 2 breaths, Lin Chen had already figured it out. He decisively took a step forward. Lin Chen, a human from the spiritual state, is here to receive the inheritance of boundary-suppressing sacred steel number 47. Senior, please enlighten me. Stepping forward, Lin Chen cupped his fist. His expression was highly vigilant. He was ready to summon the Dragon Emperor and activate the super-dimensional teleportation as soon as possible. Rumble! The sacred beast stood up. It was a body that was as majestic as the relic of an ancient dragon. The naked eye couldn't see the end of it. Very good, human. You have passed my second test. When the sacred beast let out a low roar without killing intent, Lin Chen was completely relieved, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Damn it! This was simply playing with his heartbeat. If this was really an iron-headed doll that insisted on blocking outsiders, he wouldn't be able to withstand one move from it. It was also unknown if he could use the super-dimensional teleportation to escape. The inheritor of the Lord must have a fighting spirit that defies the heavens. Otherwise, you are a piece of trash. If you turn around and leave, I will immediately blast you into pieces. The sacred beast looked at Lin Chen with a hint of mockery and then added, You are not bad. Chapter 592. Lin Chen smirked and asked, What's the next test? It said that it was only the second test. Did that mean there were more? Fight with me. I'm the heavenly winged dragon, in charge of the water punishment Tao. If you can defeat me, you'll pass the test. The heavenly winged dragon looked down at Lin Chen and said in a low voice. Lin Chen frowned. I believe that I dared to fight and risk my life. I dared to drag the Emperor down from his horse. You're a Class 8 sacred beast. What am I going to use to fight with you? His golden eyes twin could detect that the heavenly winged dragon already had some death aura and was not far from death. However, that did not mean that he could fight against a sacred beast. That would be courting death. If that was the case, he would rather not have this inheritance. Ha! You're still a little smart. If you really think you're an inheritor and charge at me, I'll kill you with one claw. The heavenly winged dragon laughed. Lin Chen's mouth twitched. This Class 8 sacred beast really set up traps everywhere. Any carelessness and it would be death. I'll suppress myself to mid-Class 7. You only have 200 rounds to defeat me. After 200 rounds, if you don't win, I'll recover my original strength and destroy you. Hearing this, Lin Chen smiled. The 5-colored dragon aura flashed, and the 5 dragons' imperial spear appeared in his hand. Lin Chen jumped into the air and landed in the arena. He raised his spear and pointed it at the heavenly winged dragon. Bring it on! Boom! A shockwave exploded. The heavenly winged dragon's body kept shrinking to 20,000 feet, and its strength was suppressed to mid-Class 7. However, its aura was still terrifying. It was stronger than any Class 7 direbeast that Lin Chen had ever seen. Even Long Kun, a primordial azure dragon with the purple phoenix black azure dragon bloodline, might not be its match. Ultimate Moment 6 stage was fully activated, and his cultivation temporarily stepped into early Class 3. Lin Chen's body was covered in a dark green glow, and he used Fighting Emperor 9th style, Water Splitter. The 2 great attacking runes were fully activated, and the tip of the spear slashed out diagonally, severing the earth vein in less than a breath's time. Your attack is not bad, but trying to use a water-type attack in front of me is like trying to display your slight skill before an expert. Winged Dragon Tianyu let out a long roar as the 4 dragon wings on its back spread out. A dragon breath water barrier spread out. When Lin Chen's water rupture came into contact with the water barrier, it actually rebounded in a bizarre manner and shot back at Lin Chen. The spear light was surrounded by the water dragon's breath. Not only was this water-severing spear reflected, but its power was also increased. Dragon's aura break. The battle spear danced and smashed down angrily. A streak of golden gung qi soared into the sky and turned into a golden dragon, forcibly tearing apart the rebounding water fissure. Bang! Clang! 2 explosions rang out. Lin Chen and Rain Dragon Tianyu retreated 1,000 meters at the same time. Both of them could see the shock in each other's eyes. Lin Chen was shocked that his opponent could reflect the power of his battle technique without any reservation. Furthermore, it was strengthened by his own strength. On the other hand, winged dragon Tianyu was puzzled. Lin Chen's attack seemed to have penetrated its dragon breath water barrier? When it came to controlling water-type energy, it was the ancestor of water manipulation. There were not many beasts that could match up to winged dragon Tianyu. This human brat's attack actually pushed it back? Interesting again. A dragon and a human unleashed their battle intent. They rushed up angrily and went all out. Move after move of 100 spear fighting emperor was executed. Lin Chen attacked fiercely from the front while using the Heaven Ascension Realm's mental strength to disturb his opponent. Winged dragon Tianyu waved its dragon claws and spat out its dragon breath. Even though Lin Chen had been fighting fiercely from the Firmament Pagoda until now, and his mental strength had reached the Heaven Ascension Realm, he was still at a disadvantage throughout the battle. However, at least Lin Chen was sure of one thing. He had the qualifications to fight a 6th-level combat emperor head-on. Long Qi, the Scarlet Empress, and the 6th-level combat emperor elder of the Han family. Many desperate battles had allowed him to grow by leaps and bounds. In the 30th round, Lin Chen had already figured out its strength. It was comparable to a 7th-level high-level ferocious beast. A 7th-level mid-level high-level ferocious beast's pure strength of 4 million dragon power point. Its actual combat strength had surpassed an ordinary 6th-level combat emperor. Lin Chen's Evergreen Dragon Emperor also had a pure strength of 4 million dragon power point. At most, it could only fight against an early 5th-level combat emperor, and the chances of winning were small. However, this winged dragon Tianyu's combat strength had surpassed 2 great realms. It was many times more terrifying than Lin Chen's Dragon Emperor. The Combat Emperor realm was not the same as the Yuan Venerate realm. Without extremely powerful techniques, it was extremely difficult to fight against someone who was 1 great realm higher, let alone someone who was 2 great realms higher. Moreover, the further one advanced in the Combat Emperor realm, the more terrifying the gap between the realms was. Only a mutated ferocious beast like Long Kuan, who had the 2 strongest bloodlines of the Purple Phoenix and the profound Azure Dragon, could challenge an ordinary 7th-level high-level ferocious beast from the peak of the 7th-level high-level. The gap between the realms was as wide as the Milky Way. Lin Chen relied on the speed of his Purple Phoenix wings to barely stabilize the battle. However, this battle was different from the past. He could not fight a battle of attrition. He only had 200 rounds. When it was close to the 50th round, Lin Chen released the Dragon Emperor. When an evergreen dragon with the bloodline of the true flame Purple Phoenix appeared, even the winged dragon Tianyu, who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, was shocked. Mixed bloodline? No, the 2 bloodlines are very pure and complete, but they can coexist perfectly without mixing. This is impossible. Dragon Emperor, fight! With the Azura soul-rending technique, Lin Chen's battle spear slashed furiously, twisting out a 10,000 zhang long spear light like a broken moon. The Dragon Emperor released the profound Azure Dragon domain to delay the winged dragon Tianyu's movements as much as possible. He used the frightening dragon roaming technique to get close to the winged dragon Tianyu's back and slash down with his claws. The evergreen mystic light blade mixed with blazing purple flames slashed down. Perfect coordination, but it's still not enough. Bring out more trump cards. The winged dragon Tianyu laughed loudly. As his 4 wings flapped, his dragon body twisted. With his dragon body as the center, tens of thousands of dragon breath water lights flew out like snowflakes. The snowflakes and water lights crushed Lin Chen's Azura soul rending technique into pieces. The purple mystic light blade was also torn apart. The Dragon Emperor flew backwards, his dragon scales broken. God-stealing omen! With a flash of his body, Lin Chen, who was extremely fast, found a gap and approached the sky Imperial Winged Dragon. He punched its abdomen, and at the same time, he used his Stealing Omen talent. God's Stealing Omen has been successfully used. Host receives 70,000 points of intermediate water attribute. Blue rank talent fragment. Fatal Bloodthirst, 3/3. Automatically stored in the talent column. 70,000 points of intermediate water attribute. As Lin Chen flew backwards, he sucked in a breath of cold air. His mouth almost fell open in shock. Even when he was cleansed by the Azura's origin in the Azura Palace of 100 Emperors, he only gained around 10,000 points of intermediate water attribute. Yet, he managed to steal 70,000 points from the winged dragon Tianyu? Even if it was only one attribute, it was still extremely powerful. Now Lin Chen's water attribute had surpassed 90,000 points and was approaching 100,000 points. Among the 9 Calamity battle bodies, the Water Calamity battle body would become Lin Chen's strongest battle body. Chapter 593. However, Lin Chen didn't dare to use the Water Calamity battle physique. His opponent was the legendary water-winged dragon. Using the water combat technique in front of it was like showing off in front of a master. What's wrong? Is this all you've got? Winged Dragon Tianyu laughed wildly and waved its claws several times, forcing Lin Chen to retreat again and again. Although he looked nonchalant, Yinglong Tengu's mind was also in turmoil. This young human from the spiritual state had more and more trump cards than the last. Whether it was the Dragon Emperor, who was of the same origin as him, or the penetrative attack, they were all unheard of in the ancient times. Along the way, Lin Chen maintained the ultimate moment, bitterly persevering. During the 98th round, Azure Dragon and Lin Chen both retreated with injuries. Winged Dragon Tianyu praised in his heart. He managed to last nearly 100 rounds against me with his second-level combat Emperor cultivation. This kid's intelligence, talent, and combat strength are all impeccable. He is qualified to be the inheritor of the Master. Winged Dragon Tianyu didn't think that Lin Chen could defeat him from the beginning. His bottom line was that Lin Chen could last more than 100 rounds, which was already the best result. After all, he was a saint beast. Even if he suppressed his strength by 90%, his combat strength was still much higher than a normal level 7 dire beast. Not to mention, his cultivation was still higher than Lin Chen's even after he suppressed his strength. He was very satisfied with the result of being able to last more than 100 rounds. Just as Winged Dragon Tianyu was about to end the test, the injured Lin Chen suddenly smiled. Winged Dragon Tianyu, I have figured out your strength. Now it's my turn. Lin Chen's shoulders shook. Rumble. 4 godly lights exploded and descended from the sky. 4 silhouettes in silver robes stepped out. Their bodies were shrouded in green, and they looked like gods descending to the mortal world. What? Winged Dragon Tianyu exclaimed in shock. Cloning technique? 4 clones that were comparable to the real body. Take this. Blazing Green Moon Slash. Night Judgment. 8 Desolate Finger. Fighting Emperor 82nd Style. Azura Battlefield. Dark Shadow Thunder. 10,000 Year Profound Light Blade. The sword light was curved like the moon, and the green rainbow was like a twisting tornado. It spun rapidly in a circle and slashed out. The pitch-black saber mark that was tens of thousands of feet long slashed down vertically with enough power to split the heavens. An 8-colored finger of primordial energy fell from the sky. Lightning flashed across the sky as the dark shadow arrow chi shot towards the heavenly imperial winged dragon. 2 streaks of fiery light pierced through the sky like an azura, piercing through the heavens and piercing towards the dragon's head. In just half a breath's time, Lin Chen went all out in an instant. His attacks were several times stronger than before. Especially Lin Chen's 82 move, Azura Field Battle, its might had already surpassed the might of a high-grade purple rank battle skill. It was nearly 10 times stronger than Lin Chen's sword and saber techniques. In addition to the ultimate moment, charge, penetration rune, and the foundation of the 9 tribulations battle body, the Azura Field Battle's attack was comparable to that of a 6th-level combat emperor. The earth-shattering attack arrived in front of the heavenly imperial winged dragon. With a dragon roar, streams of dragon's breath soared into the sky, forming layers of spiritual shields to protect itself. The dragon opened its mouth, and a pillar of azure holy light shot out from the center of the spiritual shield, colliding with the 2 streaks of fiery light. Chi! Bang! The energy that tore the heavens and earth apart soared into the sky, shaking half of the Saint Monument's space. His doppelganger, Azure Dragon, and Lin Chen retreated quickly with vigilance. Even though his attributes had skyrocketed a few times, he wasn't sure if his combined attack could shake the heavenly imperial winged dragon, who was comparable to a 6th-level combat emperor. If it didn't work, then he could only use the slowing rune and 9 tribulation star, his 2 trump cards. The smoke dissipated, and only faint ripples appeared in the space. The Saint Monument space was once strengthened by a Sage Realm expert, so it was many times stronger than the outside world. Only a Sage Realm expert could tear apart the space crystal walls here. Ha ha, wonderful, wonderful! Heaven Ascension Realm Mental Strength, 2nd-level Combat Emperor, a high-grade secret technique that can allow one to break through a realm, Body Refinement Emperor, and a top-notch spear technique with Azura's murderous aura has been cultivated to perfection. The dragon's roar shook the heavens and earth, causing Lin Chen's ears to hurt. The aura of a saint beast was once again released from its body. I didn't expect you to have such a powerful doppelganger technique, and you hid it so well. You actually managed to defeat me after I suppressed my cultivation. Impeccable! Lin Chen of the Spirit State, you have the qualifications to obtain the inheritance of the Lord. It was completely unexpected. Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon didn't think that Lin Chen could defeat it from the beginning. It just wanted to find a reason to force out Lin Chen's potential. It didn't expect that Lin Chen could really defeat it. Even a 6th-level combat emperor might not be able to escape unscathed from the joint attack of the main body and doppelganger. Kid, let me ask you, where did you learn your spear technique? What is your relationship with the Azura clan? Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon asked curiously. Little did he know that the last trace of life in his body was slowly fading away. Lin Chen briefly explained his encounter in the 100 Emperor's Palace of the Azura clan. Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon sighed and shook its head. I didn't expect you to have such a fortuitous encounter. The Azura clan actually passed down their inherited combat technique to you. The sun must have risen from the west today. Those battle maniacs have never been convinced by any other clan in this world. Kid, you must cultivate this Azura clan's secret technique well. Its power is not inferior to the Lord's main cultivation technique when he was alive. Even Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon was very confident about Lin Chen's 100 Spears Battle Emperor, which showed how powerful it was. The first 70 moves of this spear technique were equivalent to a low-grade purple-ranked combat technique. After the 70 moves, each move would be stronger than the previous one. The last 20 moves were even more shocking. Lin Chen didn't even have the qualifications to use the last 91 to 100 moves. The minimum requirement was to reach the 5th-level combat emperor. Since the Lord has obtained this kid's inheritance, he must be happy in the underworld. I can also leave in peace, Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon muttered to himself and let out a long sigh. Cracks started to appear on his dragon body. Lin Chen was shocked. Senior, what are you doing? Haha, my injuries have long since reached a fatal level. If not for the fact that I still have a single breath of life left behind by the Lord, and the fact that I still have to rely on the water-type energy treasure left behind by the Lord to prolong my life until today, as well as the fact that I have to consume a small amount of vital energy and vicious beast cores to maintain the Saint Tablet space, I would have long been incomplete. Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon grinned, revealing his sharp dragon teeth. There was a trace of relief in his smile. His mission had come to an end. Kid, I will leave the rest to you. Don't disappoint the Lord's will. Don't let down the efforts of the saints and sages of the 9 prefectures. You are one of the few hopes of the 9 prefectures. You must eliminate all those bastards from the sacred boundaries' holy prison. Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon's dragon body was falling apart. Lin Chen stretched out his hand and clenched his fist. I promise. I will eliminate all those *T fake gods from the sacred boundary. Ah, what a *T fake god. I like it. Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon's dragon body disappeared. In his final laughter, he turned into countless rays of light and disappeared without a trace. Boom, boom. The moment Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon disappeared, 2 light pillars bloomed from the space it was in. One was azure blue and the other was orange-yellow. Other than that, there were also blood-red attribute light balls floating in the air and scattered all over the ground. They were the energy of blood and chi. A fist-sized azure attribute light ball floated in front of Lin Chen, emitting the strongest dragon aura. Lin Chen sucked in a breath of cold air. It was a bloodline attribute light ball. Chapter 594. There was also an orange-yellow light pillar. Within the light pillar, there was a treasure chest filled with orange-colored crystals. The treasure chest was emitting a dazzling light. Orange crystal treasure chest. Lin Chen had obtained the 3rd orange crystal treasure chest. Lin Chen grabbed the orange crystal treasure chest and the system screen popped up. Host opened orange crystal treasure chest. Received quasi-orange grade talent fragment. Absolute life and death 2/3. The second absolute life and death talent fragment. Lin Chen waved his fists excitedly. The wind from his fists stirred up a howling wind. Only one left. If I get another talent fragment, this strongest one-on-one talent will belong to me, Lin Chen. Lin Chen forced himself to calm down. Then, he turned to look at the azure attribute light ball. Inside the attribute light ball, there was a winged dragon shadow dancing around. When Lin Chen reached out to pick it up, his palm was trembling. Host has received 200,000 Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon Bloodline Attribute Point. Host already has 3 special Bloodline Attribute Points. The current version can only have a maximum of 4 Bloodline Attribute. Do you want to absorb it? Winged Dragon Bloodline? It was true. Winged dragons were water-type dragons. They were born to be the kings of water beasts. They could move clouds, summon rain, and overturn rivers and seas with just a thought. The Heavenly Imperial Winged Dragon was the king of winged dragons. At its peak, it could become an 8th-stage sacred beast. Its talent was above most dragons. Confirm absorption. Bloodline attribute points were hard to come by, let alone the winged dragon bloodline. Lin Chen decisively chose to absorb and refine it. Rumble. The azure attribute light ball merged with Lin Chen's body. A huge amount of bloodline genetic energy surged into Lin Chen's body. Finally, it flowed into his battle aura and fate wheel. The origin of the green dragon bloodline started to throb again. Chi. The green dragon's injuries started to heal at an amazing speed. Then, silver dragon wings grew out from its back. Below the purple phoenix wings, the 4 wings spread out. It was domineering. The edges of its green dragon eyes were swirling with purple light. Within the purple light, there was a hint of azure blue. Apart from that, the azure dragon's carp tail trembled and began to shed its scales. In the end, it turned into an azure dragon tail that was as sharp as a sword. Winged dragon divine ability. Heavenly Imperial Ocean. If one is in an area rich in water-type energy, one can control the water-type energy in battle. His speed, strength, and vitality had all been greatly increased. It is extremely sensitive to water energy and can neutralize many water attacks. Azure Dragon Sword condenses the dragon's breath and dragon's strength, turning the dragon's tail into an extremely powerful sword. The sword cleaves the heavens and earth and divides the 10,000 seas. The memories of the two dragon races' divine abilities were engraved into Lin Chen's memories. His dragon emperor had transformed again. He had mastered a brand new divine ability. The Azure Dragon and Lin Chen were of the same origin. Lin Chen only needed a thought to activate the Azure Dragon's possession. Therefore, he could also use these divine abilities. In the future, if he encountered a powerful water attribute attack, he could easily resolve it. Even after such a long time, it can still drop so many vitality energy attribute light balls. Holy beasts are really powerful, Lin Chen exclaimed. He deactivated the 6 transformations and kept collecting large amounts of vitality energy attribute light balls with his 4 main clones. Host has received 48,000 vitality energy points, 54,000 vitality energy points, 49,999 vitality energy points, 50,000 vitality energy points. His vitality energy attribute points soared all the way and couldn't be stopped at all. Lin Chen alone couldn't bear all this vitality energy, so he urged the Azure Dragon to share half of it. The man and dragon's vitality energy soared. The dragon meridians in the Azure Dragon's body opened up from 400,000 to 500,000. This time, Lin Chen received a total of 23.5 million points of mid-level vitality attribute point. The man and dragon each absorbed half of it, and it took them 2 days and 2 nights to completely refine it. The Azure Dragon opened up 55 dragon meridians. Pure strength increased to 5 million dragon power points. In addition to 3 types of bloodline powers, the current Azure Dragon was much stronger than Long Kuan. Lin Chen's pure strength of 1 million dragon power points stopped at 99 million dragon power points after the strength of God enhancement. System, I want to enhance the strength of God enhancement to 75%. A system received. Consumed 250,000 talent points to enhance the blue talent strength of God enhancement to 75%. Roar. A roar similar to a dragon's roar came from Lin Chen's body. He had finally reached the 4 million dragon power points and stopped at 1 million. The higher the level of dragon power in the body refining domain, the more terrifying the destructive power was. The 75% enhancement came from the power of the basic dragon power, and it wasn't just an enhancement in numbers. This principle was similar to how tens of millions of mid-level battle aura essence could allow Lin Chen, a second-level combat emperor, to break through a major realm, but it couldn't allow Lin Chen to advance from the 3rd level to the 4th level. At this time, Lin Chen suddenly fell into deep thought. Although winged dragon Tianyu had suppressed his cultivation and was nearing the end of his life, his holy beast form still hadn't changed. This could be seen from the fact that Lin Chen didn't hurt him at all after defeating him. As for holy beasts, Lin Chen had successfully used the Stealing Omen and Stolen Attribute Point. This proved that the Stealing Omen was useful for holy beasts like winged dragon Tianyu. This reminded Lin Chen of the second time he used the God Slayer, when he defeated Long Qi's clone and encountered a mysterious person. Lin Chen had once used the Stealing Omen on her, but it failed because her cultivation was too high. A terrifying thought emerged in Lin Chen's heart. Could it be that she isn't a holy beast? Damn it, what if she appears one day and wants to take me away by force? Wouldn't I have no chance to resist? Lin Chen didn't dare to continue thinking, but he knew that he might have been targeted by an extremely powerful existence. At the very least, it was an existence on the same level as those fake gods. Strength. I'm still too weak. If I had the cultivation of a holy beast, I might be able to resist, Lin Chen urgently shouted in his heart. The current him was still too weak. After calming himself down, Lin Chen continued to step into the depths of the bestial battle arena. There was a four-sided stone tablet standing between heaven and earth. There were dragons and snakes dancing on the stone tablet. It was vivid and lifelike, carrying the civilization and prosperity of ancient times. Young man, you're finally here. Near the world-suppressing sacred tablet, a calm voice leisurely reverberated. An illusory figure stood in front of the world-suppressing sacred tablet. He was dressed in a long robe and had an elegant temperament. His hands were behind his back, and a scabbard hung from his waist. There was no blade in the scabbard, but its sharpness was restrained. There was an imposing aura that could shatter the heavens if it was unsheathed. He turned around and stared at Lin Chen. His long hair was draped over his shoulders, and he was handsome and confident. His eyebrows were like blades, and under his gentle and elegant smile, there was a shocking sharpness in his eyes. Lin Chen only glanced at him and immediately felt a stabbing pain in his eyes. If he used the purple-gold pupil to investigate, his eyes might be injured by the hidden sharpness. I was originally a wisp of spiritual remnant, and I wouldn't wake up until the last moment. But a few days ago, I felt the aura of the holy beast in the sacred boundary prison, so I woke up. I didn't expect to be able to witness the moment when the younger generation of the 9 states faced the criminals of the sacred prison. The illusory figure smiled and gave Lin Chen a thumbs up. Little fellow Lin Chen, well done. No, I'm just a little more handsome than senior. Lin Chen smiled modestly. He could feel that this sage who had passed away really appreciated him. Ah, indeed, no one is more suitable than you to inherit my mantle. The illusory figure laughed heartily. This kid was very much to his liking. Chapter 595. However, you have to be careful. Those criminals from the holy prison have already taken root in the Jiuzhou continent. I didn't expect them to call themselves gods in the Jiuzhou continent. What a joke. I have already found out about the family resources they have accumulated in the divine land. Even if we destroy their entire family, they can reignite it again. After the sage laughed, he sighed slightly. Lin Chen looked serious and asked, Senior, do you mean to eliminate them completely? Yes, 100,000 years is just a snap of the fingers for a sage. At their level, their lifespan is very long. Even if we destroy their family, it will be useless. We must find those sages and kill them all. They are criminals from the holy prison and are seriously injured. If they don't have any fortuitous encounters, it will take countless years for them to fully recover. If the Jiuzhou continent falls into their hands, they will use the energy of the Jiuzhou continent to heal their broken bodies. The sage said solemnly. Lin Chen nodded. When he knew about the history of the 100 Sages' War, he felt the motive of these fake god families from Hunmabai. Their goal was to destroy or take away the inheritance of the world-suppressing sacred steel. The collapse of each world-suppressing sacred steel would bring those fake gods closer to the Jiuzhou continent. If the world-suppressing sacred steel didn't collapse, they wouldn't dare to step into the Jiuzhou continent with their seriously injured bodies. Therefore, they arranged people in the Jiuzhou continent and chose women from the Jiuzhou continent to cultivate the fake god families. The world-suppressing sacred steel locked their auras, but it couldn't lock their descendants. When the fake god families destroyed or took away all the inheritance of the world-suppressing sacred steel, it would be the day they attacked the Jiuzhou continent. At that time, a naked invasion and occupation would become an incomparably glorious miracle in the history of the Jiuzhou continent. Because of this, countless people would worship them as true gods and descend upon the Jiuzhou continent. Haha, but now everything is unknown. If the heavens don't destroy the Jiuzhou continent, there is still a glimmer of hope. Your talent and wisdom are far stronger than any of the talents I have seen in the history of the Jojo continent, even in the ancient times." The illusory figure smiled. Lin Chen cupped his fist. "May I know Senior's name?" "Blade Saint Li Chongxing." Li Chongxing pointed at the saint's steel. "Place your palm on the saint's steel. This strand of my consciousness can't preserve much of my inheritance. I hope it can help you." Lin Chen took a deep breath. He stood in front of the world suppressing Saint's steel and touched it with his palm. Buzz. Spiritual ripples spread out like ripples, and illusory figures entered Lin Chen's spiritual bridge one after another. The high-grade purple rank battle skill, Bright Moon's Mirror, is best used with water-type battle chi. It was an ultimate saber technique that combined defense, attack, and speed. The saber technique is divided into 3 moves and 10 moves. Mirror, Bright Moon. Each move is placed in a different domain and has a different profoundness. The minimum requirement to use it is the cultivation of the 4th level of the War Emperor realm or above. The final move of the Bright Moon Mirror, 3 moves combined into 1, Mirror Moon Imperial God. Its power is more than 10 times that of the first 3 moves and 9 moves. This Bright Moon Mirror actually only had 3 styles, but each style had a high level of mastery. Mirror, Bright, Moon, these 3 styles were used separately. Defense, attack, and speed, these 3 styles were used in different ways. If it was used for speed, it would be the ultimate attack speed. If it was used for defense, it would be the ultimate defense. If it was used for attack, it would be an all-out attack. A huge amount of inherited memories poured into his mind, and the system automatically consumed 230,000 mid-level cultivation technique soul essences to speed up the inheritance. The inheritance time was exactly 2 days and 2 nights. If Lin Chen had not advanced to the Heaven Ascension realm, the time it would take to inherit this high-grade purple rank battle skill would have been at least 5 times longer. Other than the saber technique inheritance, Lin Chen also obtained countless saber techniques and experience. It was not an exaggeration to describe the saber techniques and experience of a saber saint as a priceless treasure. It was not that a sage realm expert who used the saber was a saber saint, and a war emperor who used the sword could be called a sword emperor. There were many war emperors who used the sword, but there were very few sword emperors. To obtain this kind of title, one had to focus on the entire domain and find their own ultimate sword path. So fast? It's only been 2 days and the inheritance is over? Li Chongxing was stunned on the spot. He relied on this Bright Moon Mirror to gallop across the 9 provinces, and there were few opponents in the Sage realm who could match him. Even if he had the inheritance memories that were formed from the fusion of the essence of skills, there was no reason for him to be so fast. It would take at least 2 months, right? Maybe I've chosen a monstrous and heaven-defying inheritor this time. Seeing Lin Chen open his eyes in front of the sage tablet, Li Chongxing's mouth twitched slightly. "Lin Chen, brat, you really completed the inheritance?" Li Chongxing asked in disbelief. "Yes, I don't have many good points, but I'm fast when I need to be fast, durable when I need to be, soft when I need to be soft, and hard when I need to be hard." Lin Chen smiled confidently, and Li Chongxing clicked his tongue in wonder. "Your cultivation is still some distance away from being able to use this saber technique. Unless you're in a life-or-death situation, don't force yourself to use it. If it's light, it will break your meridians, and if it's heavy, it will hurt you before you can use your battle aura." Li Chongxing warned seriously, and Lin Chen nodded. This Bright Moon Mirror saber technique required one to be at least level 4. With Lin Chen's Water Calamity battle body, he might be able to use 1 or 2 moves at the late stage of level 3. Then, Li Chongxing waved his hand and a dragon's roar sounded. It was as sharp as a sonic explosion, and the sound of air tearing was heard. This was a completely blue saber, and the hilt was as bright as the moon. It was 1.5 meters long, and it looked as if the saber was carved out of blue jade. Its sharpness pierced through heaven and earth, and there was an unprecedented pressure. However, its spiritual aura seemed to be incomplete. Lin Chen couldn't open his eyes because of this sharpness. Until Li Chongqing reached out and wiped away the spiritual imprint on the saber, its illusory figure became even more transparent. He waved his hand lightly, and the ink-colored saber case flew out from the sage tablet, and the saber was sealed in the case. "Brat, give me a drop of essence blood." Lin Chen waved his finger lightly, and a drop of Battle Emperor's essence blood floated in front of Li Chongqing. "Merge!" Lin Chen's essence blood turned into a stream of light and merged into the saber case. Li Chongqing's illusory figure finally became almost translucent. "Take it. This is my saber when I was alive, Azure Bright Moon. It is a level 8 saber, but because of the last battle when I was alive, half of its spiritual aura was damaged. If you have the ability to repair it, it will return to a complete level 8 weapon. However, even if its spiritual aura is damaged, its power is still not comparable to a level 7 weapon. I used your essence blood to bind it together. You can only use it 5 times at most." Li Chongqing pushed the saber case in front of Lin Chen, and his pupils shrank. He could clearly feel that there seemed to be a living being in this saber case, and it had some kind of connection with him. So magical. "It's like I have formed a connection with a living being. Is this a level 8 divine artifact?" The moment he took the saber case, Lin Chen was amazed. Chapter 596. Remember, don't use it unless you have no other choice. You will be injured by the blade aura. After 5 times, if you still don't have the strength to subdue it, it will leave you. Li Chongqing's expression was extremely serious. Lin Chen nodded. This could be considered his first weapon that surpassed the 7th grade. He. The heavens have not forsaken the 9 prefectures. I have nothing left to pass on to you. The price we paid for the final battle was too high. Li Chongqing looked relieved as he placed his hands behind his back. Lin Chen looked at him with admiration and cupped his fist. Senior Li Chongqing and the ancestors of the past fought to defend the 9 prefectures. There must be a meaning behind it. The living will inherit the will of the dead. I will let this meaning continue. I am relieved to hear this. Oh right, Senior, I have another request. Li Chongqing, Can I take the remains of the War Emperors with me? Lin Chen's request baffled Li Chongqing. The remains of the War Emperors were valuable, but it was only useful for Yuan venerates. For someone of Lin Chen's level and potential, it was not worth it. They were all my subordinates who died to defend the 9 prefectures. If their remains can be of help to you, then there is no problem. Li Chongqing smiled. Lin Chen was grateful. Thank you, Senior. Lin Chen leaped towards the remains of the War Emperors outside the boundary-suppressing sacred steel. Li Chongqing followed him curiously. He saw Lin Chen's palm pressing against the remains of a War Emperor. With a thought, he issued an order. System, activate the decomposition function. Outside the boundary-suppressing sacred steel 47, Long Kuan was lying between 2 mountains. Suddenly, Long Kuan opened his eyes. Baleful aura surged and the green light was extinguished. It seems like some powerhouses have returned to the area near the Hun family. Oh no, I don't know if this kid can make it in time. Long Kuan concealed his aura and hid in the mountains. He knew very well how long it would take to receive the inheritance of a sage. Although Lin Chen had told it that the speed at which it received the inheritance was extremely fast, how fast could it be? 2 5th-level combat emperors seemed to be coming this way. Long Kuan's heart suddenly tightened and his nerves tensed up. If it was a battle, he would definitely not be afraid of these 2 people. However, he could not kill them instantly. Once a large-scale battle broke out, it might alert the remaining experts of the Hun family. When the time came, a spatial jade slip would send a message, and a large number of experts would swarm over. Inside the world-suppressing Saint Steel 47. Congratulations to the host for advancing to the mid-second level of the War Emperor realm. Li Chongqing was stunned. Out of the 400-plus Battle Emperor corpses, more than 100 had already disappeared without a trace. When Lin Chen's palm came into contact with the War Emperor's remains, it instantly vanished into thin air. That's right, he had completely disappeared. Every time the Battle Emperor's remains disappeared, Lin Chen's aura would grow stronger. However, even someone as strong as Li Chongqing, who was a Saint Realm expert with an unimaginable amount of experience, couldn't see through the method Lin Chen used to make the Battle Emperor's remains disappear. He didn't circulate his battle qi, nor did he use any secret techniques. He just casually stretched out his hand and the remains disappeared. His aura grew stronger. This kind of cultivation method was unheard of. Rumble. When the 350th Battle Emperor's remains disappeared, Lin Chen had completely stepped into the late second level of the War Emperor. In the end, the 400-plus Battle Emperor's remains had completely disappeared. Lin Chen's aura was several times stronger than before. This is too magical. My premonition is very strong. With you in the 9 prefectures, there will be hope. Li Chongqing sighed in amazement. He was already a dead man, and his last strand of consciousness was about to dissipate. He had no interest in knowing how Lin Chen was able to do such a magical thing. He only knew that this young inheritor had many secrets that even he couldn't see through. That was enough for him. Most of the Battle Emperor's remains belonged to 5th-level combat emperors and above. Lin Chen activated the decomposition function and consumed a total of 310,000 heavenly Dao points to decompose all the remains. The amount of attribute points he obtained was not an exaggeration to say that it was a sea of attribute points. Among the remains there were 7th level, 8th level, and even 9th level combat emperors. The amount of attribute points he obtained after decomposition was extremely high. Just the battle chi essence alone was as high as 87.88 million points, making Lin Chen not far from the boundary of 3rd-level combat emperor. The rune energy was as high as 1.9 million points, the talent points were 2.16 million, and the remaining heavenly Dao points were 1.71 million. The elemental attribute points had all exceeded 40,000 points. The water attribute points had directly reached 110,000 points. With these attributes, the power of Lin Chen's 9 tribulations star would be unimaginable. Lin Chen turned around. At this moment, Li Chongqing was about to become transparent. Junior Lin Chen respectfully sends off Sword Saint Li Chongqing. Kneeling on one knee, Lin Chen cupped his fists solemnly. Towards these sages of the human race who once used their flesh and blood to defend the 9 prefectures continent, he had always held the highest admiration and respect in his heart. If my subordinates knew that their remains could be turned into the power of the younger generation, I think they would be able to truly rest in peace. Before Li Chongqing completely turned transparent, he laughed heartily. But, little guy, you don't seem to be from the 9 prefectures. Before he could finish his last sentence, Li Chongqing's remaining consciousness disappeared. The sword saint of a generation had truly disappeared from the world. He had bet his last bit of foundation on the last firefly of the 9 prefectures. Lin Chen did not pay much attention to the last sentence. Perhaps it was because Senior Li Chongqing felt that the function displayed by his system was too mysterious, so he had such thoughts. The light of the world-suppressing sacred steel number 47 dimmed a little. In a few months, the world-suppressing sacred steel would completely lose its power. However, its mission had been completed. A new light had quietly risen from the 9 prefectures continent. Crack! The jade in Long Yu's arms shattered. Lin Chen's expression changed slightly. This was Long Kuan's dragon breath jade. Its shattering meant that there was an enemy attack. It was discovered so quickly? What's going on? With a solemn expression, Lin Chen jumped into the spatial whirlpool of the world suppressing sacred steel and disappeared. In the outside world, at the center of the two half-moon mountain valleys. Roar! Roar! The dragon's roar shook the heavens and the earth. Long Kuan ignited his bloodline and spread his purple phoenix wings. As his dragon body danced, he continuously shot out green light dragon blade. He opened his dragon mouth and spat out a dragon breath that turned into a tornado and swallowed the 3 5th-level combat emperors. The 3 of them were forced to retreat. His fist was like a dragon. As the energy surged, the battle chi turned into a golden fist and violently hit Long Kuan's body, causing his huge dragon body to retreat 100 miles. There were a few cracks on the dragon scales. It was a 6th-level combat emperor realm elder of the Hun family. Even Long Kuan, who had activated his bloodline power, was not his opponent. Strange, more than half of the 7th-level vicious beasts in this mountain range have been wiped out. Where did this big guy come from? When the 6th-level combat emperor elder of the Hun family shifted his gaze to the mountain gorge, his expression suddenly changed. Something's not right. The stone platform in the lake has disappeared. Someone has entered the world suppressing sacred steel. The gray-robed elder turned pale with fright. He crushed the spatial jade slip. Oh no, they have called for reinforcements. In the end, we were discovered. Should we fight or stay? Long Kuan's expression was solemn. With the speed of the spatial jade slip, even if all the experts of the Hun family were to come out, the 7th-level combat emperors and above would not need too much time to rush back. Rip! A tearing sound was heard. More than 10 figures descended outside the mountain gorge. Long Kuan's expression changed drastically. 4 5th-level combat emperors and 8 4th-level combat emperors. And 2 6th-level combat emperors? Suddenly, almost at the same time when the combat emperors of the Hun family appeared, the spatial light within the 2 half-moon mountain gorge shone brightly. A figure that was as straight as a spear stepped out from the center of the mountain gorge. A young man in a silver robe with a spear on his back stepped out. He had a domineering look on his face, as he held the 5-colored dragon spear in his hand and pointed it at the combat emperors in the void. The lackeys of the false god should all die. Chapter 597. Lin Chen brat, has your inheritance ended? Long Kuan was overjoyed when he felt the extraordinary pressure coming from Lin Chen's body. He flew to Lin Chen's side. It's you? You have angered the gods and destroyed the ceremony. How dare you not leave? How dare you covet the inheritance of the Hun family? All the combat emperors of the Hun family were shocked. Just how audacious was he? A mere 2nd-level combat emperor not only dared to challenge the true god, he even dared to enter the Hun family's territory and sneak into the world-suppressing sacred monument. The inheritance of the Hun family's saint? King bullshit. This is the world-suppressing sacred monument of the ancestors who used their flesh and blood to defend the 9 prefectures. Trash like you have no right to humiliate the heroes of the 9 prefectures. Lin Chen was furious and scolded loudly. The elders of the Hun family were so angry that their faces turned ashen. Just as they were about to wave their hands and capture Lin Chen, rumble. The aura of the sun and moon bloomed from Lin Chen's body. The terrifying heavenly tribulation battle chi turned into a hurricane and swept across the entire mountain range. Azura 9 Brilliance Transformation, 1st Transformation, 2nd Transformation, 3rd Transformation, 7th Transformation, Water Calamity Transformation. Bang! The battle chi from the explosion was like raging wave. Lin Chen's aura broke through from the late stage of the 2nd level to the early stage of the 3rd level. When the final Water Calamity battle body was completely detonated, Lin Chen temporarily advanced to the early stage of the 4th level combat emperor. This was the first time Lin Chen used the 7-layer transformation. Even if it was a huge burden on his body, he had to use this trump card. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Divine light fell and clones descended from the sky. The 4 avatars flowed with the azure blue light of the final moment and ultimate convergence. They each took a side and stood proudly beside Lin Chen. The phantom doppelganger of the early 3rd layer was comparable to an early 5th layer combat emperor. As for the early 4th layer combat emperor, with the addition of his elemental attribute and pure strength, the combat strength of the 4 great doppelganger was comparable to that of a 6th layer combat emperor. Lin Chen's avatar instantly descended. Many of the Han family's experts had solemn expressions. They had already experienced the strength of this child's avatar. Not to mention that he was now several levels stronger than before. Host has activated Sovereign's Descent. 100,000 talent points have been consumed. Accumulating energy, 0 points. Lin Chen's killing intent soared to the heavens, and he even activated his Sovereign's Descent talent. Long Kun, kill them! Lin Chen coldly shouted, and the 5 people and 1 dragon fiercely attacked. We have to stop them even if we have to die. Elder Hun Zong will be able to make it in time. The 2 elders of the Han family, who were at the late stage of the 6th rank, shouted. A great battle was about to break out. 8 desolate finger. 79 style moon-splitting galaxy. Dark thunder sky-piercing arrow. Lin Chen swung his spear downwards. The tip of the spear sliced through the air, and the moonlight filled the sky. The doppelganger pointed out an 8-colored energy finger. The dark arrow light was enough to break the sky, aiming directly at the 2 strongest late 6th level combat emperors. Long Kun was fighting against 8 4th level combat emperors alone. His speed and defense allowed him to have the absolute advantage, even though he was fighting against 8 4th level combat emperors alone. Lin Chen's 2 doppelganger rushed into the midst of the 7 5th level combat emperors. 3 of the 5th level combat emperors were injured by Long Kun previously. The 2 doppelgangers' saber skills were overbearing, and the sword light was swift and fierce. They had truly begun their massacre. Because of the 2 doppelganger, one of them was the doppelganger that used the Elysian Moon Heavenly Saber. He had inherited the experience of the Saber Saint Li Changxing's saber skills. The saber skills of Lin Chen's doppelganger were even better than his spear skills. Other than the fact that he didn't have the speed of the purple phoenix wings, the strength of this doppelganger was the closest to his real body. The battle between the combat emperors caused the mountain range to collapse. Countless mountains were swept by the shock waves and turned into dust. The earth vein continued to crack. It's not that easy to kill the people of the Han family. The gray-robed elder who was at the middle stage of the 6th rank sneered in his heart. Just as he was about to launch a sneak attack on Lin Chen's real body, a dragon's roar split the sky. Chi! A sky-blue afterimage flashed past without any warning. It carried with it a pure force that could split the galaxy and a sharp dragon's breath. It went straight for the gray-robed elder's head. The gray-robed elder's hair stood on end as he was caught off guard. The space where the sword light appeared didn't have any aura at all. It was as if it had appeared out of thin air. He raised both of his hands and his fists turned into dragon claws. 10 claw marks violently clawed at the sky-blue sword light. Bang! A sky-splitting explosion resounded through the sky. The sky-blue sword light was incomparably ferocious as it chopped off an arm. At the place where the arm was chopped off, more than 10 attribute light balls fell down. With his right arm chopped off, the gray-robed elder was pushed back for more than 10 miles before he could stabilize himself. His expression was one of pain and shock. F***CK. Since when did my brother become so strong? That's not right. It doesn't seem like it, only has the bloodline of the profound azure dragon and the purple phoenix. Long Kun, who was at the side, was dumbfounded. He even temporarily stopped the battle. 4 wings flapped, 1 purple and 1 blue. His entire body was flowing with green light, making him look extremely handsome. That dragon tail that swayed from time to time was like a heavenly sword, imposing and majestic. It was Lin Chen's Dragon Emperor. With its current strength, even a late 6th level combat emperor wouldn't be able to see through its azure dragon vanishing shadow. Purple phoenix wings, azure dragon body, winged dragon tail? What kind of dragon is this? The gray-robed elder sucked in a breath of cold air. A mere 7th level dragon race could actually rely on a sneak attack to cut off one of his arms? Heavenly Imperial Ocean. The Dragon Emperor roared angrily towards the sky. All the lakes, rivers, and oceans within half of the mountain range rushed up and filled the sky with water. Even the water element spirit energy in the air seemed to have received a call. All of it turned into a tide of spirit energy, forming a vortex that gathered above the Dragon Emperor's head. A natural water element dragon scale armor covered the entire body of the Dragon Emperor. His winged dragon wings became 7 times bigger. Heavenly Imperial Ocean, the super ability of the winged dragon bloodline. It could control the water element energy of heaven and earth in battle. The current Dragon Emperor could even fight a 6th level combat emperor. Even if he couldn't win, he wouldn't lose. The Dragon Emperor, who had received the support of the water element energy, had a heaven-shaking aura. He swung his dragon tail and raised it up, causing it to shine with a blue divine light. On the dragon tail, the sharp aura of the water element dragon breath gathered together caused every battle emperor present to be shocked. Azure Dragon Sword. 10,000-year mysterious light blade. The dragon tail swung furiously, exploding vertically. The dragon claw slashed horizontally, the light blade danced wildly. The 2 ultimate abilities caused the gray-robed elder who was retreating to be aghast. On the other side, an even more frightening scene unfolded before the Hun family. Bright mirror, mirror of attack. The Nethermoon heavenly saber swept horizontally. The saber technique was graceful like a mirror of water. The saber light turned into snowflakes and slashed towards the 2 5th level combat emperors. Golden meteor splitting demon kick. Clear cloud hand. When the 2 5th level combat emperors attacked with all their might, the saber light that was as transparent as a snowflake mirror flashed a ray of light. Their attacks were actually reflected to the other side? It was as if a ray of sunlight shone on a mirror and was reflected to the other side in an instant. The attack didn't hit the target at all. This was the first time the two had seen such a strange situation in their lives. They didn't even have the chance to react. Chi. The saber light that was as beautiful as a mirror of water slashed horizontally, slashing at the waist. The 2 combat emperors' bodies along with their defensive artifacts were cut in half. They didn't even have the chance to self-destruct, killing 2 combat emperors in one slash. Furthermore, they were 5th level combat emperors. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.